No matter who you are or where you're from, we can all agree that there's one sound we love to hear. Vroom vroom. Ever since that one guy invented the car, we've yearned for the high speeds and thrills of the racetrack. And ever since we realized how easy it is to die that way, we've developed video games that let us experience those thrills from the safety of our homes and/or malls. One of the earliest and most influential racing games hit the arcades in 1982, Namco's Pole Position. Following up on their previous F1 racing games, Pole Position took racing realism to the next level, making players earn their way into the race via a qualifying round, then pitting them against other cars, puddles on the road, and sharp turns. Pole Position was one of the highest-grossing arcade games in North America even years after its release. Perhaps its first real competitor and successor came in 1986 with Sega's Outrun. Developed by Yu Suzuki, Outrun was originally inspired by the movie The Cannonball Run, but quickly carved out its own unique identity. With a cool 80s aesthetic and what would become known as synthwave tunes on the radio, Outrun provided greater visual fidelity and even higher speeds, plus more than one track, allowing players to navigate their way through a series of races. Meanwhile, on home consoles, NES players had their own versions of arcade racers. Rad Racer from 1987 took an Outrun-inspired route, sending players through a series of tracks from all over the world, challenging them to reach top speeds and stay on the road before time ran out. Nintendo themselves tried a different approach with 1984's Excitebike, a motocross racing game which innovated with its 2D side-scrolling perspective, a built-in course designer, and technology that would later go to good use in Super Mario Bros. These games have their differences, but at their heart they all have one thing in common: a burning desire to cross that finish line first. Decades later, do any of these games still place? Or are they blowing up on the side of the road? In today's episode, it's a special game bundle as we discuss all 4 of them. Go ahead and get into pole position as we see if we can outrun these rad racers. Excitebike. It's a video game podcast.
Wow.
And there's so much to discuss. One of us knows all about them.
That's you.
And the other one's a dunce.
That's me.
You're gonna learn about the very best games with 2 annoying dorks.
Fatality.
From asteroids to Zelda, from adventure to Zork. We have no life and we feel no shame. We need your help 'cause we're bad with games. Welcome to the show. My name is Jonathan.
My name is Will.
And we are
Bad with games. Vroom vroom.
Vroom,
vroom. Here-
Zoom, zoom, zoom.
Oh, I don't
Yeah,
like it anymore.
zoom, zoom, zoom.
No.
Vroom, vroom, vroom.
Okay,
This
I
is
regret my actions.
I think that is true. This is a big episode this week. If you're listening right now, then you are in for a treat because this is the first of our special December 2025 holiday bundle episodes.
Wow. All bundled up. Gifts and packages bundled up from the cold, however you want to think about it. It's not that
Yeah.
cold.
Normally, it depends on where you are. Some people are in Alaska. Some people are in Sweden, where it might be cold.
It might be one day.
Normally, we only cover one game. In fact, up until this point, that is how we have operated, with the exception of alternate versions of some games. We've only done one game each week. This week and the next 2 weeks, we will be doing a bundle episode. We are covering multiple games together and Does that mean the episode will be 5 hours long? I don't know. We'll
Yeah,
find out.
not entirely sure what that's going to mean yet, but I will be within a few hours for sure.
Yeah, well, the listeners can look right down to the time and see. They can
Yeah, they know
know.
what it means.
They can
I
decide
mean,
right now if they want to jump ship.
these are smaller games though, so it's possible that it won't actually be longer, and we made a good decision bundling them.
Yeah, it's not like we spent 2.5 hours on asteroids.
Yeah, no, we didn't do that.
Of course, that is the idea here, is that these are smaller games that have a common thread between them. And the thread this week is the racing genre. Our first
Hmm.
foray into the world of racing games. In particular, we're going to be discussing 4 prominent racing games that were released in the 1980s. And those are in release order: Pole Position from 1982. Then there's Outrun from 1986. Those are the arcade games. And then we're also looking at 2 NES games: 1984's Excitebike and 1987's Rad Racer. And we'll be discussing each of them in turn. I'm kind of thinking we start with the arcade games and then we do the NES games, or we could just go in chronological order. I don't really know what you're
Yeah,
feeling.
yeah, I don't know either. I was not sure when you said in turn. I was like, are we gonna do it in turn? Are we gonna kind of talk about
I
them
think we
all
should do it in
conglomerated,
turn.
and or okay, because I don't know how much is going to be overlap, like how much we're just
Yeah,
gonna talk about the general themes and then we can bring up specific examples, or if we just want to go one by one. I don't know.
I think we at
Um,
least start one by one, and it can be brief, and then maybe we just dive into a big old dissection.
okay. I do think we should do some level of whatever we decided we're calling or didn't decide we're calling a background royale here, though.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely get into that after I deliver the patch notes for the show. Of course, if you like the
Okay.
show, you can watch us on YouTube to see video footage of us playing these racing games this week. Or if you're an audio person, listen to it. Find us wherever you get your podcasts. We're also on Patreon, patreon.com/badwithgames. You get bonus episodes every week, plus updates on all of our content if you sign up over there and you pay us some money. Plus, our Discord server is going off. You can join that too. Pretty cool. You can email us, badwithgamespodcast@gmail.com, if you got a question or comment about the show. And we want to remind you that we have a big live stream coming up almost a week and a half away at the time of the release of this. It'll be the weekend of December 12th, 13th, whatever that weekend is. Check out twitch.tv/badwithgamespodcast. Got to double check that that's the right handle. It might just be Bad with Games, but I think it's Bad with Games Podcast. Try both. Look in our episode show notes and you'll find out. And we'll be keeping you posted here, there, our Patreon as to exactly when and how that will get started, but that will be a lot of fun too. Okay, and that's everything for now. We can get into the show.
Yeah, you're so sexy when you put on your little
I
influencer voice
don't,
there.
shut up. It's not a, shut up. First of all, thank you. Second of all, it's not I'm not an influencer. It's just my voice. I'm just being professional is all.
It's just, yeah. I mean, okay, sure.
How do you want me to do
Professional
it?
influencer, maybe.
I'm
I
trying
didn't
to
say you shouldn't
deliver
do
it
it that. I
quickly. No,
complimented you for doing it that way.
You're making
I
fun of
liked
me.
it.
No, I can tell you're being mean-spirited.
I don't know that you can tell that because it's not true.
I'd like to hear from you. This is our first time playing the racing genre on this show.
Mhm.
Maybe the first time. I guess we've had experience with some vehicles in Final Fantasy and Ultima. There's boats and ships.
That's technically true. They don't
It,
really. They're not that
mhm.
much. They mostly just mean you can go to a new place. They don't really.
Sure. Well,
They
in
aren't that different.
asteroids, you're in a ship that
That's true.
moves.
Right.
In
Right.
pirates, you get in a boat.
Hmm.
So, but this might be our first time in a car.
Well, what about like a hover car, an air car, or whatever, an Ultima, the
I,
speeders?
I just,
Do those
I don't
count?
know. No.
Okay.
And I mean, in SimCity, there are cars, but you don't
That's
drive
true.
them.
Right. Maybe I do.
So the question then becomes, and since, rather than go into each of these individual games right now, broadly speaking, as I like to do, how do you feel about racing games? Is that something that you have experience with? Is it something you've enjoyed in the past, or is it like many other video games, a total mystery to you?
Um, yeah, so I do have experience with racing games to some extent. I don't recall if I brought this up ever before or not. It feels like something I might have brought up, but I don't remember. Um, so when I was a kid, I did have an N64 and I had only a few games for it. And some of the very few games that I had for it included Cruisin' the World. The Cruisin' series I know is an arcade thing that also showed up, I guess, on N64. Why not? And also Extreme G, which is a like motorcycle racing game. I think it's I don't know how well known these are, to be
Mhm.
honest. I don't have a good sense of it. um, but I have at least met other people in real life who've heard of the Cruisin' series, and I've seen arcade cabinets for it. But that does mean that as a kid, the little bit of gaming experience that I did have, a decent amount of it was racing related. So, walking into a racing game, I'm not, I'm walking in here. You can imagine me being like, the skill level of, say, a 9-year-old who owns a couple of these games and has played them, as opposed to the skill level of a 9-year-old who has never picked up a platformer before. The
Wow.
way that I am with, like, Mario. I would not say that I'm, like, good at racing games, but I can at least play them. I do have some sense of what I'm doing in them. Um on the other hand, I will just throw this out there, even though it's not that relevant to this, because this is, I feel like when people talk about racing games, there's one in particular that tends to be like the popular one, and that's the Mario Kart series. Um, I have only ever played Mario Kart when other people forced me to sit down and play it with them. I probably have less than an hour total time played on that game, and I suck at it. So we'll get there eventually. But I just feel like that's got to be thrown out up front because everybody's kind of been made to do that at a party, I feel.
Yeah, 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 yeah. It's a tricky thing because, like most of these genres, racing games, there's very different types of racing games out there.
Hmm.
This week, mostly they're of one type that we're discussing today.
Hmm.
But the kart racing game is very different from like Gran Turismo, is very different from Cruisin' or even Extreme G. There is a lot of variety in all of these things. Personally, I am more of an arcade racer guy,
Hmm.
meaning which I don't know. Do you have a sense of what what I mean when
I
I say that?
I not quite. I have some ideas of what make these games different, but I don't know if they're the delineations that other people would use, and I don't quite know exactly. Like I have a picture in my head of what you might mean by arcade racer, but I don't. Why don't you define these terms for me so
Sure.
that I can be a little more on board?
I mean, truth be told, I'll do my best, but I don't even
Hmm.
really know that I will do a good job of defining it
Okay.
because I'm not a huge racing game person. And also, especially with the games we're talking about today, in the 80s, I think it was just more difficult to make definitions like this because a lot of the things that we're going to talk about or that you might define as being arcade racing versus like a more realistic racing game were less of a choice and more of just this is the technology we have available and this is like we're still trying to figure out how to even make any kind of racing game
Hmm.
before we get to the point of like choosing a style for it or anything like that. But yeah, generally speaking, at least the way I think of it, and maybe I'm wrong, people can correct me, I'm sure they will. Arcade racer, I think of more as more video gamey. Like generally, when you say a game is arcadey, you're saying it's less like a simulation and more, it's pretty colors, flashing lights. Doesn't really make sense in terms
Okay.
of the physics versus a real racing game where it's like, oh, the cars are all modeled after real cars and the handling and the turning and all this stuff is very tied to what it would be in real life, that type of thing.
I see. I see. In my mind, and this is probably because when I was a kid, I had two types of racing games, and this is where the split would be. Like for me, in my mind, there's the split is more along the lines of like there's the games in which you just control a vehicle, and how well you do is how well you control it. Like, can you take this turn well? Can you weave through this traffic well? Whatever. And there's the kind where you have stuff, right? Like in Mario Kart, you could throw a shell. In Extreme G, you can shoot missiles and lasers, right? Where it's like part of how well you do is how well you navigate the track, and part of how well you do is how well you attack or defend against other racers. And to me, that's like the primary split. So, like, it's not as clear what the difference between like video gamey versus realism is, or is that like a mechanical difference to any degree, or is it almost like is it mostly just aesthetic?
No, I'd say it's definitely mechanical.
Okay,
Like,
okay.
like something like even cruising, for instance. Again, it's hard because I think as time has gone on, games have been able to be more realistic, so it's
Hmm.
easier to see this distinction. But like, in a game where you can kind of just turn and hold the gas down the whole time and it doesn't really matter what you're doing
Hmm.
versus like, oh, I have to like tap the brakes and I have to ease up on the gas and I have to be mindful of things like that is
I
more.
see. Okay, okay.
Yeah. Yeah. But again, like kart racing, I would think of almost in an entirely different category. Extreme G, I mean, that's like somewhere in the world of F-Zero. That's also like kind of its own thing in my mind, honestly. There's a lot of different subsets
Hmm.
of this genre.
Y Yeah, because to me, those all feel like they're all racing games. Like, fundamentally, all of these are games where you are trying to navigate a track. Like, the most important skill you have is the ability to navigate this track. And that's
Mhm.
what you're doing. But, yeah.
And weirdly, one thing with all four of today's games is that, in a sense, I would say none of them are racing games in the way that you might assume racing games
Huh.
are.
Interesting,
What?
because I would not have said that at all.
Well, let me explain. Maybe
Yeah,
when I
yeah,
say what
yeah.
I
Yeah.
mean, and I don't. Maybe we're getting into it too early, but whatever. I've introduced it. Maybe
Yeah,
you'll
sure.
understand, or maybe you'll disagree. I don't know. But as I believe, unless I'm misremembering a little detail or something, in all of today's games, the race that you are doing is to complete a course within a set time.
Mm-hmm.
And whether or not you are faster than the other people on the track is irrelevant to how well you do. It's not like a modern racing game. It's like get to
Yes.
first place. And these games are all finish before time runs out. And also there's cars.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. The cars on this aren't relative to your position. Like they'll still be places or whatever, but they'll be like time benchmarks. If you get this time benchmark, you're first. If you get this, you're second. If you get this, you're third. If you get this, you don't place or whatever, or you don't finish
Mhm.
or whatever. Like that does happen in some of these games. Yeah, to me that doesn't make it anything particularly different. You are still dealing with other cars on the road, and I do think that both of the games that I mentioned and played have time trials. Like you can race against other racers, or you can just race on an empty track and see how fast you can do it.
Sure,
But
sure.
so, like to me, this is the same thing. But yes, it is a much earlier way of doing things.
I'd say we'll talk about it as we get into it, but
Yeah,
I'd
yeah,
say it's
yeah.
definitely a psychological, for me at least. It
Mm.
feels different when I play it. Um, all right. So as far as specifics of today's games, why don't we just get to them as we get to them? I don't think we should.
Sure. Yeah,
I
yeah, yeah.
think we should do them. I don't know that we should do a 40-minute box art breakdown. I think we should go one at a time and kind of give
Yeah,
brief
yeah.
thoughts, and then we can lay it all out there. And when
Yeah,
I say
sounds
brief
good. Sounds
thoughts,
good.
what will happen is probably we'll spend 30 minutes on each game.
Hmm. Sounds right.
So no matter what, I think we got to start with pole position.
Yeah, 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 for sure. Let's start with pole position.
And this was kind of this game was sort of the reason, or one of the big reasons we decided to do a bundle episode for this, is because I thought about getting a racing game involved in season one, And looking at what were sort of the most influential racing games, this is undoubtedly one of them. And yet, there is only one track in this game. It's just a very simple, short game to play. And I thought, I don't know if that's going to sustain a whole episode. And that's why we lumped a bunch of them in together. But this was from 1982 from Namco. And there was also an Atari version, which we didn't play for today. But this was one of the first really big mainstream racing games that had in the arcades a steering wheel, a pedal, and you went down a track. You had to first qualify. First, you do a race to see if you qualify to do the actual race. Then there's a single racetrack, the Fuji Speedway, based on a real life racetrack. And you see how well you place. And pole position is, I believe, a real term from racing.
Yep, I learned that this week.
So based on how you do in the qualifying round, that's your starting position in the actual race. And as far as racing games go, this one really was very important to the genre and established a lot of the hallmarks that you might expect from a modern racing game today. Usually we look at the game's box arts. In the case of arcade games, they don't have that. They do have cabinet art, if you want to comment on that in any respect. I don't know if you've looked at it.
I have some of it up, but yeah, I mean, I don't know what is interesting to me here and worth noting, is less the cabinet art itself and more just the fact that the cabinet here does have like arcade controls for this, so it's got like a steering wheel and stuff in it. Like it's not.
Thanks for censoring yourself.
Listen, I don't want to be too crude. We only just got started.
Yeah, I get it.
Yeah, I'm also noticing that some of these cabinets are sit down. Like you've
Yep.
got a whole. You can sit down. Presumably, there's pedals in here. That you can use, and some of them are stand up.
Yep. I believe the
looks
stand up ones also have pedals.
Oh, they do. Okay, I thought
They're
maybe
just
that one you might use
embedded
buttons.
inside of the machine.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Yeah, there were two different versions of this cabinet, and we should point out that for us, we did not play these with a steering wheel or pedals. We were using controllers.
Yeah, and I will say this one in particular, this is not going to be true for the next arcade game we did, but I did actually have I felt like there were some weird technical issues surrounding particularly the steering on this that made me feel like I didn't necessarily get the full experience, but there wasn't really an easy way around it, so.
Right. You don't have a steering wheel lying around?
I don't have a steering wheel, and there is the problem with this one that I had was just that the sensitivity on the analog stick was so absurdly high that you literally couldn't play it. Which I feel like that is more analogous to a steering wheel. In terms of like, oh, turn it a little bit, turn it a little bit. So I was mostly just had to use left and right on the D-pad, which felt like a very different experience for controlling the car.
Yeah, that is certainly true. It's like you said, there's just
nothing.
Unless we
nothing to be
travel
done
to an
about it, yeah.
arcade, that's just the best we can do. for
Right,
this
right.
week. But yeah, there is this little graphic on the side, which is I don't know, just some race car people and some confetti, I guess, falling down in front. It looks very cartoony, very kind of pop art style. Nothing really interesting about it to me.
There's little like triangle 3D prisms over the letters in pole position that I guess are supposed to represent flags, but I don't know.
What's weird about it is like I said, I think it's confetti. There's these kinds of abstract shapes of different colors falling around the image. And what it makes me think of is more of a 90s aesthetic, that kind of that Rugrats, like all that. I'm sure there's a name for whatever that art style is, with just a bunch of colory shapes everywhere that you'd see on kids' folders and binders or whatever. But they're 10 years ahead of the curve, I suppose. Ahead of the curve. Why, it's a racing term.
Oh yeah, sure. I guess it is.
Yeah. A lot of things are racing terms or like about horses, very idioms that you don't realize they're just about horses and races, you know? Like put it into high gear or whatever. Let's
Mhm.
shift gears, right? That's a thing
Yeah.
you say, and you don't even think about it. Cars. So
Having
pole
fun over there?
position,
Yeah.
I'm having a good time. So pole position. This is the earliest game we played, and the most sort of primitive, I would say, in terms of the controls and the graphics
Mhm.
and everything like that. But it is a behind the car, third person view. You're driving down the road. You have to avoid cars. There is a gear shift. You'd have just simply a low and high gear,
Mhm.
and that's it, and you got to go as fast as you can and get to the end before time runs out. And if you don't, then you have to start over again. And like I said, there's one track. So if you play that track, you've experienced the game pretty much.
Mhm.
Here's another thing about me, talking about preferring arcade racers to more realistic racers. Part of that is probably because I don't know anything about cars in real life, and I don't really care about cars in real life. In no way, shape, or form am I a car guy. And one thing I certainly don't understand in real life is gear shifting. I've never driven a stick shift or anything like that. So it took me a minute with this game as the first one of these that I played, and it's something that sort of helped me with the other ones as well, because they all sort of share an element of this, of shifting from low to high gear, which was something that truly I was like, I don't really know why you do that or when you do that. I had to kind of look that
Mhm.
up and figure that
Yeah.
out.
You have an automatic transmission.
Yes, right. Yes. So I'm like, my understanding, I don't know if you have a better understanding of this or not, but the understanding I got from this game was basically, well, you start in low gear, and then when you
Mhm.
hit a certain speed, you shift to high gear, and then that's it. Is that pretty much it?
Yeah, I mean that is effect basically it, although in the real world you would also be concerned with things like inclines. Um
Hmm.
I mean, have you ever ridden a bicycle with different gears?
God no.
Okay. Well, it's basically
I can't even ride a bicycle.
it's basically just like, okay, so if you pedal once on a bicycle, right, in a low gear, like pedaling once is gonna turn the wheel, maybe once or something like that. And in a high gear, pedaling once is gonna turn the wheel like twice or three times or something, but it's gonna be a lot harder to push it, right? So you have to put more force in, but you get more turns out of it. So like it's much harder to get off the ground in a high gear. In a low gear, it's much easier to get started, but you get a lot more speed out of the same like rotations. So like that's kind of what's happening here. Like once you already have the momentum, the high gear lets you go a lot faster with the same, you know what I mean? Whereas,
Sure.
but it's difficult to get off the ground, and that's basically what you're describing here. And yeah, that's basically how it works here.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
now don't, I am not a bike guy, nor am I a car guy. So don't, I'm sure everybody who knows anything about this is over here like, oh my God, he's doing such a terrible job. That is a bad explanation. If you're like a fucking, basic engineer, you're probably like, Jesus Christ. But like, that is effectively what's going on and effectively what you're saying. Yes.
That's good enough
Um,
for me.
yeah, 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 yeah. Now,
Pole position.
yeah, pole position. Now, I also do have kind of an issue, a bone to pick with you on pole position because
Oh, come on. Give me a
no,
break.
this is
I
fair.
hadn't played it yet. I didn't know. Go ahead. Go ahead. Pick your bone. Always
Uh-huh.
picking bones with me.
I have a lot of bones to pick with you.
My pole is in position and now you're picking my bone. Jesus.
I mean basically, okay. So there's a gear shift in this. And when you start you're
Uh,
on low gear, right?
yeah.
So, because this is not an NES game where I can just say, like, these are the buttons that you would use, right? This is an arcade game, so who knows how the fuck they mapped the buttons. On a real arcade cabinet, I would just see there's probably a lever, I would assume, for shifting gear.
There
But
is,
maybe
yeah.
it's buttons. I assume it's a lever, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so you would just know you could do that. On this one, I had no idea whether I could do that or not. I asked you the controls, and you were like, I don't know, I guess it's just A or B for gas. Um, so I didn't know that you could shift gear. I spent a long time trying to figure it out, and what I seemed to discover was that it was basically impossible to qualify even with a perfect race. And so I went and looked it up and found the gear shift. And this is my bone to pick with you, is that when I came back and so nicely informed you that there was a gear shift so that, you wouldn't have this issue where you literally couldn't finish, you were all
Yawn.
like, oh, you're being a dork. Stop being such a loser dork. Why do you care so much? You know why I care? Because I couldn't literally start the game. That's why.
Let's be honest, though, you were being kind of a dork.
I literally wasn't. I was helpfully informing you so that you wouldn't have the same issue. You wouldn't have to sit there being all like, I guess you have to, like, I don't really know how you finished the
Well,
qualifier.
guess what? I still also had the same issue, and I also
W-
had to go and figure it out.
Well,
And you know
maybe
what?
instead of calling me a
No,
dork, you should have listened
no,
and been all like,
no.
oh, I have to learn how to change. There's a gear.
I liked it. It built character that I had to figure it out. I enjoyed the process, and I got to call you a dork, and I liked that too. It was a win-win for me.
Well, last
So,
time I'll ever tell you fucking anything again.
and by the way, once I
And you
figured it
get
out,
on my case for not listening to you
calm
when you
down.
try to help me.
It's I
No,
never
this
have
is
done
what you
that.
do.
I've
This
never done
is
that.
what you do.
I've never done that. And by the way, by the way, once I
Mhm.
did figure it out, it was just one of the buttons on my controller. It
I
wasn't
mean,
actually
yes.
that complicated.
No, it is just one of the buttons on the controller, but like I would have to try every button as opposed to being all like
Sure, all
there's
four of
literally
them.
just A,
Whew.
B, start, select. No, I tried the triggers and the bumpers. I was trying a lot of things to
All
see if
right.
something happened.
Now here's the other to me the bigger flub here
Hmm.
on probably your part, not mine.
Hmm.
I don't know if you. So I really came into this. This is an arcade game, but I'm playing it with a controller on my computer, and I'm in the more controller mindset. So like I said to you, I
Hmm.
was, and you can use A to do the gas, and that's what I was doing.
Right.
And after a while, I sort of, when I was having trouble going around turns and everything, I did have a moment where I felt kind of stupid. I don't know if you made this shift, but I was like, oh, what am I doing? Actually, I don't even know. Maybe your controller is different than mine. But like many modern racing games do, I realized, oh, I should be using the right trigger,
Mm.
which is gas, because in that mimics a gas pedal in that you can actually push it down halfway, push it down three quarters. You don't. Whereas with just a button, you're just going full gas the entire time, and you can't change it. And I just wasn't in that mindset because, of course, that's what you would do in the arcade. You have an actual pedal, not just a button.
Mhm.
Did you ever did you ever
I
try that?
Yeah, I did not shift to remap that. But
I didn't even have to
also,
remap it. It was default for mine. Like
oh
you could do
really?
both.
No,
Yeah.
are you? I don't think that because I definitely tried the trigger to see if it did something. I don't know.
I don't
I'd
know.
have to. Yeah, I don't know. I'd have to look at it. I did not. I did not end up doing that for. But also, I gotta say, I'm also the kind of guy who would be taking those turns as fast as humanly possible and being like, listen, I know I need to ease up a little bit, and I will, but only the bare minimum, and I'll still crash half the time because, like, god damn it, I am not gonna fucking take this slow. Fuck that. No way. Um,
Yeah,
uh,
yeah.
yeah, I mean, what I was doing was some degree of either, just I can ease off the gas by releasing for a little bit, just like a second or two to slow down and then get back up. Or I can do what I started doing, which is just never let go, but I can just switch into low gear for a short period of time and then back to
Mm.
high gear. Boom, boom. um, and take it that way.
Yeah, I mean you can also like you can just like let go for a second and then go back
Yeah.
on.
Right.
Yeah.
That's
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
some degree of that for sure.
Yeah, that'll probably get you somewhere. But yeah, So it took me a little bit to get started with this one because I'm just not used to this style of
Mhm.
racing game, and also because it's kind of old and we didn't, there's no instruction manual. All these things added up. But once I figured out, okay, shift, low, high, ease on the gas, go around corners, all this, then it took me a long time, but I did eventually get to race in the actual race. I did qualify.
Mhm.
I don't think I never did very well in the qualifying race, but I did get to the point, or sorry, in the
Mm.
actual race, but I did get to the point where I could consistently make it there.
Yeah,
Um,
I gotta say, like, and I don't know if it's because I spent 20 fucking minutes being like, "Is it possible to do this stupid qualifying thing?" Um, but I
it's
just
all
never
my
had trouble.
fault.
Like, at no point did I ever have. Well, that way it wasn't your fault that you didn't know. That's not the problem. Uh, Problem is you didn't listen to
You
me.
just didn't like my attitude.
Yeah, I didn't like your attitude. Now
Hmm.
I know what it's like to be you.
Yeah.
Um,
Hmm.
yeah, I never had any trouble qualifying. Like that wasn't a problem, and that
Mm,
could be because, like, I got. Here's the thing: I think it
interesting.
is possible to qualify without going into high gear because I was literally like inches away consistently. Like
Mm,
I hit like I swear to God, if you can get like there's points for how far you go. And if you can get like, I don't know, 10,150 points or something, you're there. And I could consistently hit like 10,060, 10,100 even, I think I maxed out at. Like I was fucking there. And I was just like, if I could just get a couple inches closer to the edge when I'm taking these turns, I could do it. And I was having issues where I was like, I can't use the D-pad subtly enough. Like I think on a steering wheel I could be turning just a little bit less while
mm.
still turning, and I couldn't do it there. So I did feel like I was losing some control on my steering, but
Yeah, I don't know. So I assume that you have at some point in your life used arcade steering wheels for
I
like you've
have
sat down in one.
technically.
Yeah.
That is technically true, but I have barely done that, and I don't
Mm.
know. In my mind, I'm just like, I don't know. I've used a real steering wheel, right? How different can it
Right.
fucking be?
For whatever reason, I feel like when I've used the arcade steering wheels, I mean, maybe it's highly game dependent, and I haven't spent a ton of time with these games, but I feel like they're hard to control for me. And
Interesting.
maybe that's intention. I feel like some of that is they want there to be a learning curve, so you got to pay some more quarters to get a handle on it. But I'm
Mhm.
like, I don't know. I think I might have been worse at this game with a real arcade cabinet, at least at first, or maybe I would have been the same.
Mhm.
But I did kind of get a handle on the D-pad. But it's interesting. I don't know. Like, yeah, if I had at first I had a lot of difficulty with the qualifying race, so.
Yeah.
Maybe you had better overall turning skills than me or something.
I'd be interested in seeing it because when I actually got into high gear, like I was just being like, fuck it, I don't need to play. I just need to like make these turns. Like it's more important that I make these turns without losing speed than it is that I make them well because that gets me to the end faster. Even though I might
Mm.
blow up, but I don't
See,
care if I blow up. I like blowing up. Whereas on the qualifying thing, I was like, I can't go faster, so I have to make these turns perfectly. So there were just a lot of times where I was just like, I need to nudge my car over the real world equivalent of about 2 inches because that's how much space I have left. But like, I can't do it. Right. I'm just like, like I almost have to
huh.
correct every time I go right and go back left again because I'm going to run off the road and I can't quite hold it steady.
Yeah, I don't know. My thing became more if I can just not blowing up was the worst
Mm,
thing for me, or at least the way that
mhm.
I was playing, blowing up was what really slowed me down. And if I was able to go slower around a corner but survive it, I was more likely to
Mhm.
finish the qualifier and get into the race.
Well, but you never finished the qualifier without the boost, right? Without the, not the boost, without the high gear, right?
No, and I never did
Yeah, yeah,
that.
yeah.
No.
No, that is what I mean. When I was in high gear, 100%, right? I just need to
Mm.
make the turn without crashing. When I was in low gear, which I spent
Oh,
like 20
interesting.
minutes doing, I was like, I can still almost make it. Right? I can still
I see.
almost make it if I can make these turns fucking perfectly. So like the
Challenge
fact that
run.
I learned how to do that might have helped
Mm.
me
Mm.
be
Yeah.
like, "Oh, okay, now that I'm in high gear, I don't like it's fine."
Yeah, yeah, perhaps. It is a strange In order to qualify, you have to get in under 73 seconds. And I don't believe those are real life seconds. The game counts them up
Hmm.
faster than
Huh.
normal, I think. I
I
think they're
couldn't tell.
slightly faster than real seconds.
Interesting.
But I don't know why. I guess maybe just to simulate what it would be
Hmm.
in a real race, and they couldn't like program enough track to last that long or something. I don't know. But and they don't tell you that. I only knew that from reading that online. I don't know about you.
Huh. Yeah, I
Did
mean,
you
I did
see
not
that?
look into that, and I did not. I mean, I was not really paying attention to the seconds too much. I was more
Mm,
just like, it was more just like if I'm in the ending straight away, I'm looking at my score and I'm looking at the seconds to try to, because I don't know what the cutoffs are either. So I'm just looking at those being like, is that better or worse than I did when I failed last time? Because if it's worse, I'm not going to make it, kind of
right.
thing.
Now, and so you did mention the score you can get in this game.
Yeah.
And while the other racers don't technically matter in the sense that you don't care what place they got into, you do get points for passing them, which I think
Mm.
was the
Yes,
first
that's
time a
true.
racing game actually rewarded you for passing someone in a way.
Hmm.
So that is one of the ways that this game, for at the time, people were like, "Oh, this is more like a real race." Where
Hmm. Sure. Yeah.
if I pass someone, they tell me good job and give me a pat on the head. I get to put my
Right.
initials on the board, maybe.
Yes, because as you brought up earlier, there aren't, it's not like there are 8 racers on this track, and if you're in first place, you're in front of all of them, right?
Hmm.
It's it's um it's more that there are other racers on this track. Even if you pass all the ones that are on screen right now, it'll just kind of spawn some other ones in front of you. And if you lag behind all of them and they all pass you, it will just kind of spawn some in. Um, I think this is something you kind of referred to earlier, and that was happening in basically all of these games. That this is not like you are not racing against specific other cars. It's just that there are other cars on the road.
Yeah, they just happen to also be doing this at the same time as you.
Hmm.
They might as well be boulders or something, like they're
Hmm.
not. It doesn't really matter. They're just obstacles. It doesn't matter
Hmm.
that they're people or cars.
Yeah, so I mean, this is going to be relevant with other games too, but like, talk about because you said this is psychologically very different for you.
Yeah, yeah. When I'm playing, say, a Mario Kart, because or an F Zero, like these are the series that I really, in terms of racing games, what I would be playing more. Um, I am like I want to beat that person, and I'm seeing the two or three people ahead of me, and my minute to minute goal is I got to get ahead of that person. And then once I'm ahead of them, now my whole feeling in my body and mind is just keep your lead. Keep the lead. Don't mess up. Oh, they're coming behind me. They're coming behind me. Stay ahead of them. Okay, this is good. Which I feel is very different from in this game where I don't actually care what those other people are doing. The only time I care is when they're directly in front of me and so I might crash into them and I want to get around them just because they're impeding my path. But as far as like, I basically treat it more like I am doing a time trial because that is essentially what I'm doing. Then I'm actually racing other people. Which I don't know. Maybe it's not. I feel like it is functionally different, but I don't know that I can articulate why I feel that
Hmm.
way. But
Yeah,
it
so
sounds like for you, it's not.
well, for me, it is functionally different, but not as psychological. I mean, I can see there's a little bit of a psychological difference. So, yeah, I might agree with you. So, okay, my
Whew.
experience doing this. Um, I One thing about racing games is that there does tend to be this tendency, I think, in them, as you said, if you are kind of in the middle of the pack, right? Like six, five, fourth place or whatever, seventh. I don't know how many racers there are. There tends to be this big bundle of chaos, right? Where there's just other cars everywhere. Everybody's changing places a lot. If you really suck, you'll kind of drift to the back and there won't be anything going on. And if you're really good, you can get an early lead. And then you're just kind of focused on maintaining your lead against one person or another, right? But there's not this just like complete madness happening the way there is in the middle.
Hmm.
And to me, these feel like very different things. being like around first or second place and being around like fifth place because of this. So for these games, I kind of get this feeling of always being in fifth. Like you can be out in first place effectively. Like in the sense of you're doing really well, right? You're going really fast, you're doing everything perfect. But at no point do you get to this point where because I'm doing so well, there isn't that much going on screen, right? Like, just because you did really good and you got really fast and you're taking the turns well, doesn't mean that there aren't a billion people around you who you also have to deal with. Um, and for me, in a lot of ways, I actually really appreciated that effect. Um, because I kind of really like the chaos of it. The sense of like, "Oh, fuck. Oh, shit. Oh, god, there's a guy there. Oh, no, I gotta get around this guy. Oh, shit. You fucking asshole. Get out of the way." Like, it's kind of road rage simulator. It's great. Um, but you're very much not incentivized to do that in these other racing games because like, if you're doing that, you're doing badly, right? If you're doing well, you shouldn't be in the middle of a bunch of people just constantly trying to traffic weave. Um, and so I kind of like that effect of it, like, you still get to do that even if you're doing well. I don't know how you feel about
Yeah.
that.
No, that's a good point. It does eliminate a potential problem that, well, maybe that didn't even exist yet. It's a problem we introduced later on when racing games changed in that way. That, yeah, sometimes being in first place in a racing game can be boring
Mhm.
because you're just like, well, I'm winning, I'm doing well, but now all the fun of all the crazy stuff happening is gone. But then if you're seeing all the crazy stuff, then you're like, well, this also sucks because I'm losing.
Yeah.
And these eliminate that problem. Also, the idea of rubber banding doesn't exist here, where in a lot of modern racing games, when you're in the lead, cars behind you will become faster in order to make it to simulate
Mm.
the idea that you have more pressure on you so that you don't
Like a
get
blue
bored.
shell type thing,
Yeah, basically
effectively.
something
A
like that, so
benefit,
that
yeah.
it's so that it's not boring, so that the challenge is still there, but it is, is essentially making the AI cheat as you play. Or vice versa, when you're behind, the people ahead of you actually might go slower so that you can catch up to them. And it
Mhm.
does feel like that's a problem the game is patching that it also invented. Whereas if you stick with this version of it, yeah, it's like, well, they're just always cars, and who really cares? I guess that something like that also occurs in games like a Need for Speed or other games where you're racing on a street and
Mhm.
there's other cars. So that kind of is the best of both worlds, because then there's like the cars you're racing against and then also just the cars that are there.
Mhm.
But yeah, it's a different sort of a thing. Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah. I mean, this also, though, does go hand in hand with the whole time trial aspect. So in pole position, I think this is going to get less forgivable for me as we go through these games. But in pole position, there, like, you have a certain amount of time to complete this lap in effectively. And if you don't do it, the game just kind of ends, right? Um, and I gotta say, like, for me, that feeling is pretty unsatisfying, right? That feeling of just being like, "Oh, well, I didn't, I didn't go fast enough, so I guess just halfway through the lap, we're done." Like, I didn't get to finish the lap, and then it told me that I sucked and didn't do good enough. And I feel like that does kind of go hand in hand with other racers because, um, I don't know, it feels more concrete to say you didn't do good enough after completing a lap if 6 people were ahead of you, as opposed to just being the time you got on completing the lap was like a 6th placed time, even though there were no cars that meant that. You know, it
Yeah.
feels a little weird. Whereas here, at least you can say, well, you ran out of time, but then you feel a bit unfulfilled. And like, to be fair, they have one track here. So they do need a reason for you to kick you off the machine or else one, like, I get it. You gotta put more quarters in, right? Um,
Yeah. And at the
but
time, I mean, people were just probably, it was good enough that there was a thing with
mhm,
a pedal and a steering wheel.
Yeah.
And, people, we're spoiled now. If a game came out with one track in it, you would say that's hot garbage. What are
Mhm.
you talking about? One track? But here, nobody cared. It was like, well, you play the game where you're in a
Right.
car. That's cool.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. But yeah, like, you need like, it's more understandable, because, like, if I can finish a failing track, like, it's like, "Okay, now I've seen everything," right? But in this game, it's like, well, did you actually finish the track once you got race cars on it? I maybe you didn't. How many like,
Mhm.
it gives you more to see by cutting you off, in a sense, so you don't get bored of it as fast and you put more quarters in.
It would be nice if there was a little more. It took me a little bit to actually understand that I wasn't finishing the qualifying race. I was
Mm,
like,
mhm.
why did it? Oh, I guess it stopped. I guess I go again. And then finally, once I like figured out gears and I
Yeah.
saw the finish line, I was like, oh, I never
Oh,
even finished.
you're gonna see watching my thing, and part of the reason maybe I spent so long on it before going and looking it up is because you are gonna see I have, like, at least a dozen, maybe 2 dozen attempts where I was less than a car length away from the finish line, where I was just like, "It's there. It's right there. I know I'm not finishing because I see it, and I am right fucking there. I swear I can do it." It was very
Adorable.
frustrating.
How about before we move on to another game, there's also the real life billboards in pole position.
Oh, yes. I forgot
And
about those.
that's another realistic aspect of this game. As you drive on the side of the road, you'll see billboards for things like Pepsi,
Mhm.
Marlboro,
Mhm.
Canon cameras.
Mhm.
There's one or two others that I don't know if they're still brands or I just didn't know what they were.
Yeah.
Namco, there's Namco signs, but I don't know. That's sort of a funny thing that wasn't the norm back then.
Canon's kind of interesting because the other ones are all like, you could sell these in an arcade,
Right.
you
Yeah, I guess
know?
that's
Like
true.
like this is your perfect little tie-in. Like, oh, I don't know why, but after playing this pole position, I could really do with a Pepsi. Maybe I'll go up to the counter and
It
buy it.
is
And you could probably
pretty
smoke in arcades in those days.
Yeah, I was gonna say it is kind of fucked up. Like, sure, you could in 1982, arcade games were much more geared towards kids. I think maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
Maybe it was more like I mean, it was certainly teenagers in those arcades. It is kind of fucked up to market
We,
cigarettes in this game,
there's a
but
lot of market. I don't Marketing cigarettes to kids did not stop until, like,
yeah,
way too late.
yeah, yeah. Joe Camel, I
Mhm.
love that
Gotta
guy.
love it. He's so cool.
He is cool. Joe Camel is cool. Like, what is a GIP? A AGIP.
Hmm.
It's a Italian gas station.
Mm. So you probably know what that is if you're into, like,
Mm,
sports racing shit.
yeah, yeah. But anyway, okay. So that's well, we'll circle back to pole position, I'm
Mhm.
sure. But
Yeah, all
let's
these games will be able to be compared and contrasted, so
yes, where there's no rules that now we're no longer can talk about the
Mhm.
last game.
Right.
Fast and loose today. Let's shift gears, I'd say,
Ah.
to the next arcade game. That's if you have an objection, feel free. Otherwise, that's this. I'm gonna say we do
Mhm,
Outrun
mhm.
next.
Yeah, 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 sounds right to me.
So Outrun. Now this one, 1986. Pole position stayed popular for a long time. It was like the top, one of the top arcade games up until really 1985. It was still like in the top 5 arcade games of the year. So this game, with its one track, this game entertained people for 3 years
Mhm,
plus. And then in 1986, Outrun comes out from Sega.
mhm.
This was designed by Yu Suzuki, who uh, he's also the guy who made the Shenmue games, and stuff like Space Harrier, a bunch of other arcade games. He's an interesting guy with his interesting career, but we're just focusing on Outrun. Once again, similar concept. You're racing. You have to finish the track in a certain amount of time. Otherwise, you have to start over. Some big differences in this game aesthetically. You're in, I believe it's a Ferrari, a convertible Ferrari. You're a guy with a blonde lady in the car next to you.
Mhm.
You're not on a racetrack. You're not. It's not like, oh, you got a place in the race to win or whatever. No, it's more like you're cruising down the road. There's the beach in the distance. There's palm trees. There's cool music playing. You can choose your music on the radio. And another thing in this one, there's multiple stages, which you must play through all of them in one go to see them all. And there's also intersections where you can actually go left or right after each stage, and you get to choose which racetrack you go to next. So there's some non-linearity there for you.
Yeah, think of it like because yeah, when you describe there's extra stages, you kind of think like there's a set series of paths, but really it's almost like this tree, right? Like this branching pathways. So like every time you complete a course, um or like when you get close to completing a course, you get to choose to go left or right, and that's going to determine what the next course up after this one is. Um so there are multiple there's one starting course, but there are a bunch of different ending points, and they do like interconnect. Like if I go right after the first stage and then left after the second stage, it's the same as going left after the first stage and right after the second stage. It is interesting. It definitely gives this sense of place to it, which I think is really
Mhm.
important for these kinds of games. Like the idea that like I'm not just moving a car on a screen, but like I am actually driving through an area. And I don't think I've experienced like a track layout like that before. So I found that to be really cool.
It is not something you see in a lot of racing games. The Forza Horizon series does it, as well as the newest Mario Kart World has
Hmm.
is one big interconnected place. That's sort of the whole gimmick of it, is that you can like drive from one track to the next in a big map. But yeah, it definitely was pioneered here in Outrun. I don't know if
Hmm.
there's, once again, the arcade cabinet art we can look at briefly, but in this case, it really does just kind of accurately depict what the game looks like. And, there's not much to it, in my opinion. Just kind of shows the
Hmm.
cars driving down the highway, your cool Ferrari.
Yeah. Now I am looking at this like sit down deluxe motion simulator version, which
Mm.
looks fucking insane.
Yeah, I guess there's one that's more like a sort of molded like an actual car versus again a stand-up version of it.
Yeah, but because it's all like plastic, it looks like some kind of odd Hot Wheels. And it's got like the cabinet front and then like a seat, and then of course the sides are just empty so you can get in, and it looks kind of like a golf cart but with a race car aesthetic to it. And it's on this platform, which I'm assuming because it's talking about like motion simulators, and I'm seeing something about hydraulics. Presumably this thing like will like push you back or something if you accelerate, which sounds kind of badass.
Yeah, I think that is true. But
Kind
don't
of
quote me
rules.
on that.
Not gonna lie.
So, of course, once again, we played with the controllers. Did you have a similar experience in terms of the controls where you felt like it was hard for you to be precise without a wheel?
So I would not so much on this one. This one, the sensitivity on the analog stick was about what I would expect from a racing game, and I was able to control it fully with that. So it felt like I don't know. I feel like I am not precise enough with a D-pad to get like a smooth turn, right? Like the increments that I can press it for are probably much bigger than most people. So like when I'm using the D-pad, I'm kind of like, okay, I can scoot over like half a car width or not, but I can do a much smoother motion on the stick. And so I didn't it felt good controlling this one.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that.
Hmm.
It is going straight from pole position into outrun, which is, I don't know about you, that's what I did. That is the
Yes, that
order I
is what
played
I
them
did
in.
too. Hmm.
um, is crazy because right immediately the jump in visuals is
Mhm.
obvious. It's so, before, I mean, all things considered, pole position looks decent. Like, it's 3D, you can tell what everything is. It works, but the color palette is very limited, all these things. There's nothing really interesting in the background other than Marlboro ads. And
Mhm.
here it's like, whoa, it's the 80s.
Yeah.
My hair is blowing in the breeze. There's trees, there's foreshortening of shit.
Mhm. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's environments. Like, that is the other thing when I'm talking about a sense of place is that, like, those tracks you go on, it's not like they have different turns. It's like, "Oh, this is the one where there's mountains in the background and a nice, like, flower bed like you're going through Switzerland. Oh, this is the one with all of the, like, weird stone ruins you drive through. Oh, this is" whatever. Like,
Mhm.
they feel very different, and you can see by the side of the road, like, what's going on, which is really cool. Yeah, it does feel like, you look at pole position and you think like, oh, this is like Donkey Kong era tech, but like, God, these guys are geniuses to figure out how the fuck to make it look like you're riding on a road. Oh my God, you must be so smart. And this is just like, yeah, you couldn't have done that on that old machine. Like, this is Double Dragon
Mhm.
or something. You have much better tech because
Yeah.
otherwise you just couldn't do it.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Double Dragon because that is a game that we talked about. We praised it for its 80s-ness
Hmm.
at the time. And I think that this game is uh, more of the type of 80s-ness that I like.
Mm,
That was like the machismo and the dudes in cut off jean shorts or whatever. And this is like like Michael Mann, what's like Thief or those kinds of movies, or Miami Vice, or it's just like
mm,
driving in the night and the neon lights flashing by and all that kind of thing. It's a little more chill. It's a little more my speed, you might say.
mm. Yeah, you're not the cut off jorts and mullet guy, is what you're
Not
saying.
yet.
Okay.
I think I'm trying to get there.
Mm, mhm.
But and like to that point, you can select your song here on the car radio before you
Mhm,
begin. There's
mhm.
three different tracks to choose from.
Yes. Actually, this was the only area where the controls were clunky because you turn the steering wheel to select the track, and then you have to like select it while the steering wheel is still turned to that. Like, if you let go, then it goes back to the default or whatever, which felt odd doing with the analog stick, and I could tell doing it. I was like, "Oh, if I had a real steering wheel in front of me, this would probably be
Mhm.
great." But
Yeah,
I
you have
don't.
to like hold it kind of, but
Yeah, it's weird, but it's
it
yeah.
works. Which was your favorite? Did you like Passing Breeze, Splash Wave, or Magical Sound Shower?
I think I was on Splash Wave, if I recall correctly, most of the time, but I did cycle them a bit.
Yeah, I don't remember. They're all pretty chill. They're all apparently this game the soundtrack was actually one of the big inspirations for the
Mhm.
entire synthwave genre. Like
Oh, really?
yeah, like not like legitimately unironically
Damn.
this game the roots of that can be traced to this game. And in fact, I read that sometimes the genre was even referred to as outrun music.
Damn. Okay, I mean, that makes me like these songs a lot better because I like all of these songs. I was like, yeah, these are decent. Like, some parts of them, like, I'm looking for something that's like hype for racing, and some parts of all of them are a bit hype, and other parts are kind of chill. And I could do with like, chill is also fine for this sort of thing, but it was all kind of like, yeah, this is like effectively just some decent synthwave, right? Like, nothing in it really stood out to me as like, you know, oh my God, this is so fucking good. But if there is no synthwave for this to be a decent version of, then it actually is kind of like pretty revolutionary in a way.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, pretty good. There's an
Mhm.
album by French musician Kavinsky called Outrun,
Mm,
if you know about
sure,
that.
why not?
Remember the movie Drive?
I do remember that movie.
Does that count? Is that what that would be? That was a good soundtrack. Anyway, Outrun. So like I said, the vibes, the aesthetic, all of that is cool. It sounds like I'm wondering if you saw more tracks than I did because um we played 4 games this week, and it was a holiday week, so
Mhm,
I didn't spend as much time on any one of these games. Neither of us did, as we would have normally if we were just doing one of these.
mhm,
Uh, Certainly not in some of the cases, not as much as I would have liked to. In some cases, I think as much as I needed to. But
mhm,
this was one where, again, I early on, not as much as with pole position, I definitely found it much easier to control, and also it helped that
mhm.
this also had the low high gear shift thing, so I wrapped my head around that. But in my time with the game, I don't think I quite made it to stage 3 on any of my runs. I think I tapped out at stage 2.
It
And I
it took
trying both directions though.
it took me a bit to get to any stage 3s, but I did get to them relatively consistently-ish from the bottom stage 2 by the end. I could never get to stage 4. And I don't know if I made it to stage 3 on the top thing because I kept crashing into the stones because I just absolutely refuse to go slow in this game. In all of these games. I
You have
mean,
a problem, it sounds like.
I will say actually the timers on these things are very
Oh,
strict.
yes.
Like they're extreme, and in pole position it's a bit more understandable, but here it just feels like, cuz on the one hand I was like, should I be going slower? And then I was just like, I feel like if I'm like ever dipping below 200 miles an hour, I'm fucking not making that checkpoint. So we're just not doing that shit.
Yeah, that's what I feel like. Oh, playing the game, getting the hang of it, I'm like, oh, this is pretty easy. It's not that hard of a game. But then if I crash more than once, uh,
Mhm.
I probably will not make it to the next checkpoint.
Yeah,
And
don't.
that,
Yeah, no, you're not making it if you crash. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I was reading about people talking about, trying to beat the game, getting all the way through all 5 stages
Mhm.
in one go. And they basically said, if you crash twice, like just restart. It's not going
Yeah.
to happen.
Oh yeah, I believe it. I believe it 100% because I like on the first stage I was like, yeah, I can crash once here and I'll be okay, but on the second and third stages it really was like I could like spin out, but if I actively crash, like that's just not gonna cut it here. Like I really do feel like you pretty much have to be going full pedal to the metal. Do not crash, do not make a mistake or you're not getting to the end.
The hardest thing for me is just other cars in the road.
Mhm.
Like that's the hardest part. Like the obstacles themselves, or there's not really even obstacles, it's just the turns. It's just the obstacles are on the side of the road. So as long as you're staying
Mhm.
in the center, you're safe. But then there's a car in your way, and then I hit
Mhm.
it. That's what messes me up. At least, I mean, I also
Mhm.
got messed up by hitting trees and stuff by going too far to the right. I definitely
Mhm.
did not play this as risky as you. I was definitely slowing down more around corners because I was just like, I would do anything not to crash was my
Mm.
priority.
I see. Yeah, I mean, how do you here's a question, I'm pretty sure I know your max speed in this game because of how much time
Hmm.
I spent at it. I don't know if you're even aware of things like that, but pretty sure you could go 275 is as fast as you could go in this.
Yeah, I was gonna guess like to somewhere in the high 200s.
Yeah.
I wasn't
I mean,
exactly sure.
yeah, like how much
That's
time did you spend
kilometers.
below 200? Oh, this is in yeah, sure.
I'm looking
Yeah.
at my footage right now.
Makes
I'm
sense.
watching myself go 280. I think like
Yeah.
once I got into high gear, I stayed there.
Yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But so yeah, I was up in the I see 276.
Okay,
Saw
okay. Oh, no, so you
276.
can go faster than that. All right. Yeah, okay, so I did get faster than that. It's been a while.
But I
A couple
definitely then
days.
would dip down to like 200, then around a
Mhm.
corner and then back up.
Okay.
It's
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, okay. So we probably played similar. Yeah, talking about the vibes of this game too. So in pole position, the other cars are all race cars, right? Like you're on a
Mm.
racetrack, a bunch of race cars. In this game, you're very much not on a racetrack. You look like you're just on like a public street and you're going across, across country or whatever. And the other cars are all just like there's trucks carrying stuff. It's just people driving their cars. Um, and I mean, I quite liked this because, at the beginning of this, they wave a flag like you're in some kind of street race, but there aren't any other street racers, and all the other cars aren't participating. I I did not get the vibe in this game that I was racing anybody.
Right.
The vibe that I got in this game was just I am a reckless driver and like get the fuck out of my way. Um and it was a lot of and honestly it was a lot of fun and um the environments and the sense of place for that really add to that experience and the like big crashing animation. Like, in pole position, you just have kind of an explosion. Here, you often see your car just like flip over and go crazy, and you can see like you and the lady you're with going, ah, in the car. And so, like, there really is, again, the same sense of like, I'm just going fast. I'm taking this fast. Fuck you. Fuck you. Ah, fuck. I died. Oh no. Oh no. Ah, it's a lot of fun. I think that, like, if I were gonna punch up this game, I one of the things I would do is, like, remove the racing start and just start as you're going down the street, and then if
Mm.
you run out of time, play a little animation of, like, a police officer, arresting you. Be like, "You gotta get to the if you slow down, you're gonna get arrested for reckless driving." That's the goal, is
Yeah.
to not have that happen.
You gotta play Need for Speed Hot Pursuit.
Mm.
There's cops in that game.
Fuck 'em.
Hey, come on. Nah, fuck them. Yeah. Yes, it is. It definitely is more just like, I don't know, I'm cruising. It's kind of just a
Mhm.
cruising simulator. Not that this is a
Yeah.
cruising game, other than
No.
like you said, there are crowds of people at the beginning, but it's like
Yeah.
that makes less sense than if they weren't there. Like, what are they? There's no there's no cameras. They're all there watching you go at the start line, and then it's not like you loop back around the track like you go to another city.
Yeah, I don't know
Why?
how
What are
street
they doing?
racing like that like works.
Yeah.
Presumably there are this sort of thing happens, but I'm not cool enough to
Yeah.
really
But
understand it.
the graphics look great. The
Mhm.
3D effect is really good. It can
Mhm.
be a little I mean, it's still they're still like trying to kind of fake that 3D-ness, but I think for what they were working with at the time, it looks pretty damn good, and the environments are a lot more detailed. Obviously, it's more colorful and fun to look at, and it does feel fast.
Yeah.
Apart, I think because there's so much more stuff on the sides of the screen, you're really like, holy shit, those trees are going right by me
Yeah.
real
Yeah, no, you
fast.
you do feel like you are just zipping in this game. I mean, pole position. I will say, the three of these games, the one of these games is not like the others. We'll get to it, but the
Mhm.
three of these games that are similar here, they do all feel really fucking fast.
Yeah, I
This
think
one
that's
probably the
fair.
fastest because of the
Yeah,
backgrounds, but still.
I think so. Yeah. I just love that your car flips over and they just get back in like, oh well.
Yeah.
Like it's
Yeah.
fine. Your car's okay.
Yeah.
No
No,
more
that is
issues about
fun.
it. But yeah, I would like to see more of these courses.
Hmm.
That was part of the fun of part of the reason I wanted to do well in this, as opposed to pole position where it was just, well, I want
Right.
to get better at it. Here I was like, I want to know what all the stages look like because they're cool.
Mhm. Yeah. No, absolutely. It was fun getting to a new stage for sure. Like that was enjoyable. And from the Donkey Kong thing, like how much it
Mm.
means to complete something and feel rewarded in game by like seeing something new. So being able to see that, and the branching pathways do help with that to some degree too, because you can kind of say like, okay, I'm like, what am I going to try for? Like, I've never made it past this branch, so I could see something. I've made it past the other branch, so I'd have to get through two branches to get to something new over here. But maybe I would have an easier time at that. I don't know, because just like
Yeah.
whatever my difficulties are. But you have all these options, and yeah, it's fun.
Adds replay value. If you go online, you
Hmm.
can look up what people think are the easier paths to take,
Hmm.
but I don't know if they're the same ones or true for everybody.
Yeah, hard to say.
The radio thing too, it's sort of like that leads directly into Grand Theft Auto, right? Being
Yeah.
able to change your music is a cool little personal touch
Yeah,
that
I
yeah.
thought it was really cool that you could select your soundtrack on this. I think that's an important part of racing games, that there be a good soundtrack. And like preferably you could like either you should be able to select it or it should be different for every stage. Like there really is no, you can't just have like one or two things that pop up. There needs to
Hmm.
be a lot of variance and, something you can do that's interesting.
Now, when you were playing this, did you see the back of the blonde woman's head in your car and think, "Oh, that's one day that's going to be Sydney Sweeney"? Did you think
Huh?
that ever?
Why would
You
I be thinking that?
you didn't think that? Oh, only because Michael Bay, it's been announced, is directing a film adaptation of Outrun
Oh,
featuring Sydney
shit.
Sweeney.
Oh, shit.
So,
We'll do that on the Patreon when it comes out.
I mean, this
I, I
it's
I
possible
was
this gets
also
canceled,
thinking,
but
yeah, well.
that has been announced.
I was also thinking, like, honestly, another punch up for this game after just like remove the racing thing would have been more just select aesthetics, and one of the aesthetics was you should be able to change your lady. You should be able to change your guy. You should be able to change your lady. You can make it woke too if you want. Like, why not put some guys in there? You want to be a guy with a guy on your arm? That's cool. You want to be a girl with a guy on your arm or a girl with it's fine. I don't care, but you should be able to select your lady and
Mm,
select your dude and
yeah.
select your car.
Yeah, I mean, this is both games so far, you only get one car and that's it.
Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, Also,
They don't have to be work different either. Just.
no. A minor correction, Sydney Sweeney has been announced. She's producing it. We don't know whether or
Yeah.
not she's actually going to be in it. But I mean, why would she not be in it? Come on, Michael
Yeah. No,
Bay.
it's a
We need this.
yeah, like well, yeah.
The
I mean,
lore of
you're right.
Outrun must be mined. There's so much you could do with this franchise. It kind of bothers me. I always want to write it. I don't know. Some places apparently it's written as one word, but officially it's two words: out space run. I don't really know. I mean, what is an outrun? What does that mean? I guess it's just you outrun something. I don't know. I
Yeah,
want it to be one word,
I don't know either. Yeah.
but it's two. I think technically it's two. I think maybe in the final big action sequence of Outrun the movie, what will happen is the guy, I don't know, let's say it's Glenn Powell, probably whoever it will be. He injures himself, and that's when Sydney Sweeney goes, "Now it's my turn to drive." And now the lady's doing the driving.
Whoa. That's crazy.
And
That might
all
be a
the
little too
Outrun
crazy.
fans from the 80s will lose their minds. They made Outrun woke. This sucks. Okay. Let's transition into the NES games. Now I know it would be going out of chronological order, but I think it makes more sense to talk about Rad Racer first.
Yes, yeah, I did play the last two are the NES games, just to remind everybody because it's been a while, Excitebike and Rad Racer. And yes, Excitebike is kind of the odd one out here. So while I did play it first because I did them in release order, it does make sense, I think, to do Rad Racer here.
Especially because Rad Racer is in everything but name the home console version of Outrun. It really feels like you're when you play this right after it's obvious that was their inspiration. Although I
Hmm.
mean you could argue the pole position too. They're all pretty
Yeah.
similar in a sense, but
Yeah, I think I would agree. Like, I think in many ways, there are a lot of things about it that play more like pole position, um, or feel more like pole position. But I do think, like, it does, it seems like the intention is to go for your home console outrun.
yeah. Well, it also has the radio stations where you get to choose three
Hmm.
tracks of music, which
Hmm.
you can switch on the fly, or you can have
Which is
no
cool.
music at all. And it also has multiple tracks. You don't get to choose between them, but it has a similar thing where there's like a checkpoint system, and you need to get to a certain point before time runs out, and you have to start over again from the beginning.
Hmm.
You get to choose from two different cars in this game, although they are functionally no different. It's what are your choices in this one? A 320 twin turbo Ferrari, which I guess is maybe the same car as an Outrun or similar, and an F1 race car, but
Yeah.
they're the same.
Yeah, it's a sports car or a race car. None of those other words mean anything to me. I'm not a car guy, but
Yeah. I'm just reading the notes I've been
yeah,
given.
yeah.
And But otherwise, yeah, like once again, now I guess you don't actually have a low high gear in this game. Instead, what you have is a turbo option,
Mhm.
but it's kind of, I mean, it works similarly, but I guess it is different because you don't shift into it and stay there. You hold down forward on the D-pad and that boosts you, and then once you let go, you're basically essentially would be like putting you back into low gear, I guess. But it's like a
Mhm.
similar concept but
Yeah.
different, implemented
And
differently.
and it also only works above 100 kilometers an hour.
Right.
So it's a little, I don't know. It feels pretty different to me. Like it feels almost like a midway point between, the racing games that I played would have like nitros or whatever, like some kind of nitrous thing or whatever, where it's like you
Boost
get,
mode.
yeah, yeah, you get like 3 boosts or something for
Mhm.
the entire track and you can fire them off whenever you want, right? Type of thing. But there's not like a gear. This is not like that in that you can do it as much as you want. But it is unlike the gears in that you don't toggle it, right? Um, Other than just the fact that you would have to be using left and right on the D-pad to steer, um, there's really no reason to not always be holding it down because it doesn't hurt you to hold it down when you're going below 100. It's just that it doesn't work below that. Right.
Right.
So there's like very little reason not to hold it other than I don't want to go any faster right now because there's a guy in front of me or there's a turn or whatever.
Now, quickly, if you're watching the YouTube version, I'll put the box art for this game on the screen, which just kind of shows a few cars and a city in the background driving and a little speedometer
Hmm.
thing underneath. Which, I don't know, to me, this is like it's just all this box art accomplishes is telling you, yes, there are cars in this game. Do you want to
Hmm.
race cars? You can buy this. I don't know that I have much to offer about it in terms of
Hmm.
analysis. Any, unless you
Now this
do.
one says 209 miles an hour, but I could have sworn this one is actually kilometers an hour.
I'll have to. Yes, the box art says
Yeah.
209 miles per hour. Checking. Yeah, it is kilometers in the game, unless we maybe for some reason got like the European version of the game or something,
That could be, or
or
maybe we just have the Japanese version.
yeah, or maybe
Is
they
that what
just
do
did
I?
that for the American box art. I don't know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Interesting.
I don't know. But another thing that we could point out that's they advertise on this box is that, by the way, this game was developed by Square. So probably one of the few Square games we'll play on the show that's not an RPG. But this game has a 3D feature. And I don't just
Whoa.
mean it's in 3D graphics. I mean, it came with a pair of red and blue 3D glasses. And at any time while playing, you can press select to shift it to red and blue 3D mode and play it in 3D. You know what I just realized? I have 3D glasses around
Yeah.
here somewhere. I could have actually tested this out and I didn't.
I was just thinking that I was gonna ask, did you test that out?
I mean, I'm gonna have to do it now after the show. I'll report back next week. But yeah, I did just try it just to see what it looked like without 3D glasses, which is bad.
We'll put up the footage. If you own your own pair of 3D glasses and you're watching
Mm.
the YouTube version, go get them now and see what you think.
Yeah, I didn't. Yeah, I forgot I had those. Damn, now I got to play this in 3D. Pretty
Put
sick.
the glasses on now.
But what a weird thing. I think there were a few games maybe that Square had that with, but I did not catch on at all. Nobody wanted that.
It's kind of weird that that didn't catch on. That seems like the sort of thing that could have. Like you just
Yeah.
package that in. Like I don't know.
If I was a kid and was aware of this game, I would have thought that was awesome. That would have definitely been a selling point. And this was a big seller when it came out.
Hmm.
Uh, like we said, this has a lot in common with the other racing games we've already talked about so far. Big differences probably being that they're the tracks, like that turbo button we mentioned. There being multiple tracks, but that they're not optional. You just go through the same tracks
Hmm.
every time. There's 8 of them in this game. The 2 cars you can choose between. And one other thing, once you run out of time, what actually happens is the game lets your car continue until say you were going 200 kilometers per hour.
Mhm.
You will gradually, as if you just stepped off the gas, wait until you get down to zero. And then if you manage to hit the checkpoint in that time, then the timer resets and you can keep going, which is another little, sort of a safety thing, where you just might be able to keep going even if you run out of time.
Mhm.
So I don't know, how did this one feel to you now that we're on a game that's actually meant to be played with a controller and a D-pad as opposed to a steering wheel?
Yeah, I mean, I gotta say, I still like, I have more issues controlling this with the D-pad than I do with the analog stick, and that's probably just because of what I'm learned as a kid and what I was used to, because I didn't find this as easy to control as Outrun, but it was much better than Pole Position in that sense. Like, I think you can tell that this was designed for that. Everything's kind of like the best that it can be for a controller that didn't have a stick on it. Um,
Mm.
yeah, so in terms of so I'm curious in this. How far did you get in Rad Racer when you were playing
I
it?
Yeah, so once again, I wish that
Mhm.
I had been able to play it a little longer. I mean, I could have, but I didn't. It was a busy week. It's a holiday
Sure,
week,
sure, sure.
folks.
Yeah, yeah. And we had 4 games to play, so it's not like you can
Right.
put in like, a ton of hours on this. You gotta split your time.
But I believe I made it to, I believe it's the fourth track, the Athens course,
Hmm.
was the farthest that I got.
Really? Okay. Because I did not make it through the first track on this.
Oh, okay. I thought you were
Yeah.
gonna say really, because I beat the whole thing
No.
easily.
No, 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 no. I like for maybe it's just because I was crashing too much.
I bet I know
Um,
why. I'll let you finish.
is it because I'm going way too fast all the time?
That's why. I'll tell you, the first course, like, for me, it was a similar story with all three games.
Mhm.
That got, I was easier because I learned it more or less the same way each time. That the first course was tripping me up a lot. And then more specifically with Rad Racer, what I really figured out was, oh, when I got to a corner, I really just had to brake. This was the first game
Mhm.
where I actually didn't just let go of the gas, but actively pressed the brake button.
Yeah. I mean, I was doing that too. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, once my brain figured out that turning, like the first course I did a bunch of times and failed, and then once I got through it, I got through to track 4 on my first try, before I died again. So for me,
Mhm.
it was just like I had to unlock the method of turning that worked safely, and maybe you were being too crazy still.
Yeah, I might have been being too crazy. I might not have had the turning, something with the braking and the turning. I was thinking about this too because I do know that when it comes to Mario Kart, one of my issues is these like drifts on the turns. I don't really understand how they work or how to do them. And like I just have to take it the way that I would in something more like an outrun, which doesn't work. Like it works, but it's much slower than taking it properly. And I was wondering if maybe there's some similarities here. There's something I'm just not quite grasping about the way you're taking these turns with the brake. Um, but
Possible.
I was trying to use it. I was trying to get through. I found the cars in this much harder to deal with than the cars in Outrun as well. And the cars in pole position. I found them to often be very it's very unforgiving in terms of there's a car in front of you and oops I hit it. It was a lot harder for me to tell if I was going to like if I'm trying to traffic weave, am I actually in front of this car or not? Is my the front of my car in front of it or not? um I also found that they seemed to change lanes erratically. I had a lot of difficulty being like, this guy's in the middle lane and I gotta pass him or else I'm just stuck here. And no matter what side I pass him on, as soon as I get in front of him, he just goes over into my lane and knocks me off the road. And I don't know how to avoid that. I have like no sense of how to avoid that shit. Whereas I was able to just traffic weave on the other games without too much difficulty, relatively speaking. Like there was something about this that was weird. Um, I think I could have liked the like drift until you hit a checkpoint thing on Rad Racer, but I also found the checkpoints to be very like I don't know where the fuck they are. Like it's weird, right? Like on Outrun you have these big built up backgrounds, right? And so you can kind of tell like, oh, the scenery changed from this to this, so I must be this far through the track. So I have a sense of I'm getting close to this next point in the stage, right? And in pole position, there's really only the one track, and there is a and it's not particularly long, and there is just a finish line, right? So you can kind of tell when you're making the lap. Here it felt like there's like three checkpoints before you get to the finish line, and there's not really any visual indicator that you pass it. So you just get to it and you're like, "Oh, I guess the game is giving me more time now, and okay, sure, I get to keep going," or it's not doing that, and I just
There
didn't make it, and I can't tell how close I am.
there is like a little, I believe there's a little green flag or something on the side of the road that
Hmm.
just isn't, it's not very obvious, but I think there is something. The real way
Hmm.
is before you attempt each course, they show you an overhead
Yeah.
layout of the course. And you are, I don't know if you're supposed
Yeah.
to, but you can attempt to go like, okay, the beginning is these three curves, and then there,
Mhm.
and then you're on a straightaway, and so you sort of get a feel for maybe when those checkpoints are if you observe carefully.
Yes. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I did also know that because so this is the other issue I was having with it, I think, is so there's not really anything in the way of backgrounds. It's more like pole position, and I assume this is the limitations of the NES. It's like the two Double Dragon variants, right?
Sure.
Um
Although I'd say it's closer to Outrun than Double Dragon NES is to Double Dragon Arcade, in my opinion.
Sure, sure. But there's nothing really in terms of scenery, right? Like it's just kind of there's some signs that, like you get like signs along the side of the road or something. There's nothing really
Yeah,
changing in the
the
background. It's
background
very
changes, but the sides of the road not as much. From course to
does the
course, I mean.
oh
Well,
from course to course
in the
within, but
first
I like
course, maybe you didn't get this far, but
yeah
the
maybe
sun does set
yeah no
over the
the
course
sun
of the
does
first
set
course.
once you get far enough. But like okay, so in in Outrun, a lot of the way that I would learn the course is I would say like okay I I I see like those trees or those rocks or that cliffside or those buildings, and so I know a turn is coming up when I see that scenery. Um like I don't have to like I can sort of pay attention to the road, but I can divide my attention between that and the cars and what I'm doing because I have all these visual indicators. Whereas here, it's like there are these signs that say turn coming up on the side, but they're pretty small. And sometimes you still have to like adapt to a turn when when they aren't there, and the amount by which the turn, like how severe the turn is different than if it's there, and there really isn't any scenery. So it does feel like, as you said, the way that you prepare, that you like anticipate what's coming up is you just know what the track looks like. And I don't know. I found that to be a lot more like I couldn't do it as to the same degree, right? It's just like I don't know how
Yeah.
intensely I have to deal with this turn because I don't remember the map. And even if I did, how do I know when it's coming up? I just kind of have to remember by feel about, oh, I've been driving for about this many seconds. Like I can't say like, oh, look, there's that rock on the right. Um, so I think I also had a lot more trouble navigating these because of that fact as well. Um, and I think and I was wondering about it because I was thinking I didn't have the same trouble with pole position, but that could just be because pole position is such a shorter track that it's like, yeah, remember like three fucking turns and you've memorized it. And this one, it's a lot more so.
Yeah, I don't think I ever memorized anything in any of these
Okay.
games. I just kind of got a little better at like reacting and going with the
Hmm.
flow as I was doing it. Like I would kind of try when I did get to the new course. The thing is, I play like I said, I did that first course a bunch of times, and the other courses only once because
Hmm.
I only got through past them like one time and then stopped. But um I would look at them and be like, okay, a bunch of little curves. And then I'd kind of go by feel like, okay, I think that's like the first.
Mhm.
checkpoint. Yeah, that sort of felt right. But I didn't play them enough to really be able to tell you if I actually accurately knew them or not.
Yeah.
Um,
I literally, like, other than by looking at my score and seeing how high it was in Rad Racer, I had no sense of where I was on the track. It was just like, am I almost there? Am I not almost there? I don't know. I know how
yeah,
far it showed me having got when I got this score, so I must be. But like, there was no physical sense to it all. No sense of like place the way that I had
actually,
in Outrun.
I just realized, is that S to G on the bottom showing you how far in the course you are? Is
Oh,
that
maybe it
start to
is.
goal?
Oh yeah, that might be what that means. Start to goal.
I never
But
even looked at that. I didn't even notice what that was. Huh, I kind of like that. Yeah, that's interesting because I found this and Outrun to be much closer to me in terms of how they felt to
mm,
play. But it sounds like the visual thing made a big impact on you, and for me, I wasn't the background elements weren't helping me as much as just playing it and
mhm.
gradually getting better at the controls or something.
Yeah, I mean,
Um,
I do know this is a difference between. I know for a fact because I think we at one point we were like out at like a dumbass science museum and we did like a little. It was like test your reaction time.
we're on a date.
Uh, so I know for a fact that your reaction time is significantly better than mine. Like that's just true.
Love
Like
it.
it is fully possible that
Uh,
part of this is that you are much more able to say like, "Oh, thing coming up, react to it." And I need some kind of sense of I know there's a thing coming up. Like it's not like I
mhm,
memorized the outrun courses either, but like I would have, it's like these little flags, right? It's like I couldn't walk you through what the landmarks are going to be and what I'm going to do, but when I see the landmark, I now have this little pattern recognition that says I know what I need to do before I do it. And here it's like I either got to memorize the whole thing or I got to react as it comes up. There isn't really I can't like read a pattern and then like preemptively start doing it. I don't know.
and you're certainly not gonna slow down.
No, fuck that.
Yeah,
I mean,
I
I guess
yeah,
that's the other thing is that in in pole position, like I kind of learned like, oh, fucking I should be in high gear as much as possible because I can't make it to the end if I don't go in low gear. And in outrun, I was like, these checkpoints are so aggressive. I wonder if I had only played this and I had spent more time on it. Because I only played it for like half an
mm.
hour or something, right? If I had been like, no, I got to spend more time on just this game, and I hadn't had those others, maybe I would have been like, let's just try never using the turbo and see how far I get. Like, I'll be able to control better, but I might not make the checkpoints. Let's see if it works. But in this one, I had already been conditioned to you're not going to make it if you don't go max speed the whole time. And besides, I like doing that.
Yeah, I loved the feeling of like, "Oh, no, time ran out, but if I can just inch come on,
Mm,
let's go," and then passing that checkpoint
mm.
and getting the time boost felt like, like
I'm
watching a
not sure I
bowling
ever did
ball
that.
go, like, and be like, come on, a little to the left, a little to the right,
Mm.
yeah!" Yeah,
But
that gave me
that
a good
means though
feeling.
that presumably that means you knew there was a checkpoint there.
Well, it was more that it didn't matter if I knew because
Okay.
my speed was running out. So I was more hoping, oh, I hope it comes up now
Okay.
before my gas runs out. But yeah, I don't know if it was maybe there was a visual cue or maybe it was just instinctual of I did kind of have a feeling of like or maybe it was just in my head. Well, at least the first course, having played it a few times, at a certain point, I think I was like, okay, they're pretty sure there's a checkpoint here. Or, okay, I know that roughly I think the checkpoints are placed so that
Mm,
they're spaced out so that your time will probably be almost out by the time you get to it. So I think I'm assuming if you're going top
mhm.
speed and not crashing too much the whole time, but if your time is low, you're probably right about to hit a checkpoint. Maybe that's what it is.
Sure, yeah. Okay.
Um, yeah, but I thought it was cool. I thought the tracks were cool. I was a big fan of the third one. I did think it was kind of a bad choice that it defaults to no music. So you
Yes.
have to actively choose to turn music on when you start. I'm like, that's because sometimes I'd forget and I'd be like, why does this game feel boring all of a sudden? No, because they didn't turn the music on. It's no good at all.
Yeah, so some things about this. I'm sounding relatively down on this, and I do think for me this game was a big downgrade over Outrun on the whole, but I can see how Outrun has the advantage of being on a big ass arcade machine. The fact that this is your home
Right.
console thing, right? It's like pole position, right? Where it's like, oh. You want to go out and drive a car like crazy, but you can't do it because you will die. Well, you can get in the arcade cabinet. And here it's like you want to go out and do that, but you don't have a local arcade. Cool, right? Like here's your like this works, and it does work, and it would give you that feel. It just doesn't have the power to go higher. Um, I do think that also I'm just worse with the D-pad than I am with the analog stick for controlling the car. Um,
It's funny because I
but
totally used the D-pad for the arcade racers too.
you used it for
I
the Outrun.
I did, yeah, mostly,
Interesting,
yeah, yeah.
interesting.
I think
Yeah.
maybe just because on the controller I'm using, it's also like in a slightly more natural position. The
Mm,
D-pad is like higher up than the stick. It's more like a PlayStation controller, if that makes sense.
gotcha.
But yeah, I don't.
Yeah.
I found that being able to like tap it to be a little more precise helped me.
Yeah, I mean, I guess that was my issue is that I couldn't precisely tap it. So it felt like
Mm.
all of my movement was clunky and too, like I would undershoot or overshoot and I could never get it right where I needed it because I'm not good with it. But I did want to say, like, I thought one big thing that this game had going for it is that it had really, really good racing game music. Um, I obviously generating a synthwave genre is great for Outrun, but in terms of like how much fun is it to listen to this track while zooming around in a car, I thought that this game nailed it. And I'm kind of surprised you said the third track and not the first track because as soon as that first track came on, I was like, "Oh, I've heard this before. I've heard this before a lot,
Huh? I
actually."
don't think I have.
Interesting. It felt like iconic to me, and I was like, "It
Huh?
fucking rocks. It's really good."
I didn't. The first one I didn't like the way it started. There's something about the beginning that I was like, "Ew, it's kind of
Mm,
grating to me." I liked two and three
interesting.
better.
Interesting. But
It was
I
too
mean, I did.
intense.
Oh, I want maybe that's it's gotta be fucking intense. I'm fucking zipping this car around. Vroom,
Yeah,
vroom.
you're doing coke off the
That's right.
dashboard.
That's why the '80s simulator's the perfect one for this.
Sounded like you were going to say something. Did you lose it? Great,
I don't think so.
great. I was going to say something too, and I lost it. Just overall, I think one of the reasons I also like this one a lot was when you Outrun does the same thing actually, but when you do lose, when you get a game over, it will show you how far along the
Mhm,
track you got. I think in Rad Racer it's a little more detailed versus Outrun is just kind of like this
mhm,
far. Rad Racer actually shows you like you're halfway from this checkpoint to that checkpoint on this specific course. Um,
mhm,
and just like every time I lost, I virtually every time I lost, I saw myself get a little farther. And I just felt a really good sense of progression with this game where maybe this is more of like a personal thing than the game, but I felt like, oh, I'm getting better at this. I'm getting the hang. Every time I do it, I'm getting a little bit farther on the track. And I
mhm.
liked that. Uh,
Yeah, I do like that in theory, but for me, again, it felt a little less meaningful in part because like I didn't get to see a second track, which I think was a big deal. And the different parts of the track didn't feel different. It's like, okay, from the first to second and second to third checkpoint are basically the same. And then the sun starts setting, and that's basically the only difference. So it was kind of like, yeah, I got this far and whatever. Whereas I look at Outrun and I'm not just seeing where I am on the track, I'm also seeing where I am in the big branching pathway from the beginning all the way to the end, and I can see all the different options that I can choose later or that I chose this time. And you can see along the track what the environments you were driving through and the ones you chose not to drive through are. So again, I do think that for me, the biggest loss for me was the sense of place, the sense that like,
mm.
because that's really the two things you're getting, uh, out of this style of driving game for me. One is just the chaos of I'm going really fucking fast and there's shit all around me that I could blow up at any moment if I hit. And two is I'm going through I'm driving in a space. I'm driving through an area. And so feeling like I am somewhere is I think a huge part, like it's really important for me.
Yeah, you definitely would like. I mean, the other tracks still sort of look the same throughout, but
Hmm.
like the second one is a nighttime city San Francisco highway, and it just the lights are cool. There is some
Hmm.
cool variety between each one at least, but yeah, it isn't like, oh, this
Hmm.
there's no landmarks or anything. It's just the background that moves.
Yeah. I did just think the checkpoints on this were far too aggressive for a home console version that only has one starting track. Like I was looking at it and being like, I really feel like either need to be able to select all of these tracks from the start, or this is not an arcade game where like I need to maximize the amount of time, I need to like kick or minimize the amount of time that you can sit on here for a single quarter before kicking you off.
Hmm.
It felt like they were holding over too many things from the arcade in that sense.
Mm. Yeah. Again, I mean, it was yeah, it would be nice if you could select the tracks and stuff, but you know, people expected longevity, they expected difficulty. That was
Hmm.
sort of part of the package still. Like people were still thinking in the arcade mindset
Hmm.
for the most part. But obviously all of these are very different from modern racing game where you would have like Grand Prix and all these
Yeah.
options and modes instead of just like go race, you're racing.
Right. Right.
Also, I think this game has an awesome name. I love Rad Racer. It does kind of paint more of a picture in my head that this is going to lean into the sort of 80s cowabunga dude style. And it doesn't quite do that, but that may be just limitations. And maybe again they were trying to be outrun, but they didn't have quite the power to do that on an
Hmm.
NES. But cool name.
Hmm.
I don't know. There was a Rad Racer 2, which apparently was only released in North America because the game was much more popular here.
Hmm.
But I think that's it. I think it would be kind of cool if
Interesting.
they like revived Rad Racer. Seems like a
Could be.
good
Could be.
candidate. Although maybe it's just like, what does it have that's unique compared to any other racing game? What makes it special? I don't know.
Hmm.
Okay. Then let's finally talk about the last game that we played. As we said, this one's sort of a different thing.
Hmm.
And this one is Excitebike, developed by Shigeru Miyamoto himself. This is a Shigeru Miyamoto game. And in fact, its biggest legacy probably is that this was the game that he invented the side scrolling technology for that he later used in Super Mario Brothers.
That is cool.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole like he was kind of trying to make Mario and he was working with the technology trying to figure that out and Excitebike was the process of that happening.
Yeah. It is interesting that like you because I can see it, right? This idea of like I want to make a person walking feel natural, and just no matter what I do, it feels kind of weird and stilted. And then you say, well, I'm going to do a vehicle, and you say, well, obviously a vehicle is going to have these smooth accelerations and these way, and it's like a person walking should be accelerating and stuff too, right? Like he shouldn't just be like
Yeah.
walking or not walking. Duh. Now that I say it out loud, it's obvious. But I kind of needed to go work on a vehicle where you had to do it that way before I realized it. I can
Yeah.
see it.
Yeah. So Excitebike, we are going back in time a little bit. This is 1984, so still pre Outrun and Rad
Hmm.
Racer, post pole position. And uh, at first glance, very different from the other three in that you are, well, first of all, you're on bikes, you're on motorcycles
Hmm.
instead of cars. You're not on a road. You're on like a clear racetrack, a dirt track designed for, motocross racers.
Hmm.
And it's a side scrolling game. So you're seeing it from a side view, not behind the motorcycle. You're watching your little guy go on tracks. Uh, it does, like Rad Racer, have sort of a turbo button where you can boost your engine. In this game, you're punished if you use it too much, you'll overheat. And you also have the added thing of needing to angle your bike. So when there are jumps, and when you jump off of them, you can use the D-pad to move left and right because you want to be parallel with the ground. And if you don't, or if you hit an obstacle, you can crash, and then you got to run back onto your bike and keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I think I'm gonna make that a little clearer because you're
please
so yeah, so
clear it up.
okay. It's a little bit odd. So despite the fact that it's a side scroller, there are like 4 lanes.
Yeah.
So if you use up and down on the D-pad, they are mapped to left and right um in terms of switching lanes, right? So like if I want to switch one lane to the left, that's away from the screen, so I would press up, right, so to speak. And then left and right on the D-pad angle your wheels up and down so that you can land the jumps. And like I know that that's a little confusing, but it makes sense in the game itself.
Yeah, I don't it sounds confusing when you say it, but I feel like
Yeah.
playing it, it's completely natural, like, just
Yes.
yeah, just that's just because your brain is seeing it.
Yeah, it's odd reading it, it's odd explaining it. I just felt like, when you said you use left and right to angle your bike, it kind of like when you just say it that way, it makes you feel like maybe I'm turning the bike to the left or right to line it up with the jumps, and it's more that I'm trying to not like I don't want to be facing down when I hit the upward slope of a jump or I'll spiral out or something like that.
Mhm. The box art for this one, I think, is similarly boring, like Rad Racer, where it is just a
Mhm.
guy on a bike going fast.
Mhm.
That's
I
it.
mean, I will say this,
Doing a
not being
wheelie.
a car guy,
Mm.
I look at the cars on the road on Rad Racer, and I'm just like, "Sure, there's some cars on a road." I do look at this Excitebike guy and say, "Oh, shit, he's doing a wheelie. That's pretty cool." He's,
Yeah,
like, on a
yeah,
motorcycle doing a wheelie, and he's got these, motion blur these pixelated motion blur lines that I
yeah.
think look pretty cool. I do think that um, this cover art draws me more than the others.
Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair to say. He's got his little orange jumpsuit. He looks like a
Mhm.
little guy. Excitebike. Another kind of a name that to me sounds reasonable because I've heard it for a long time, but when you break it down, it is a weird name. Like what's an
Mhm.
Excitebike? That's not a
Yeah.
thing. They've just made that up.
I mean, those the syllables work nice together because you got the "ite" and then you got the "x", so you kinda got the K and I sound that it all comes back full circle in bike. Like, it works, I think.
Mhm. Yeah.
Flows off the tongue nicely.
So, like we said, this is kind of the odd one out of the group, but we're throwing it in here because I don't know. It seemed like a good place to throw it because why
Yeah.
not?
Yeah, I mean, there are some
There are
real
similarities.
similarities.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, in this one, you are still doing time trials. Um
Hmm.
There is a mode where it's just time trials, and there is a mode where there are other racers. Similarly to the other games, you can crash into them and spiral out, or they can crash into you. So you got to position yourself right. Um, it even has a more modern track layout in the sense that you can just kind of select any of the tracks to play, like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There's 5 of them. Or you can go in and in the mode where you're racing against other racers, there'll be like a little preliminary, and then you'll play the track. And then if you beat the track, you go to the next track. And then if you beat the track, you go to the next track. So there is this kind of like Grand Prix feel to it where you're trying to get through as many of them as you can. Um, so all of those things to me do feel like they are potentially like building a more modern racer,
Yeah.
um, and in some ways more modern than these other games, even though this one is a side scroller.
Right. Like yeah, because it's a side scroller, you sort of think of it as being
Mhm.
more primitive, but that's really just it's a stylistic choice. But in terms of the options and everything, this game even has a course designer,
Yeah,
which
that looked cool,
may have
but I
been the
didn't
first
really.
time you could do that in a game,
Yeah.
or at least a
Yeah.
racing game.
Yeah, I mean, that is awesome, the fact that there is a course designer, like, that is so cool.
I think you could only save like one or two at a time, but
Yeah, sure, who
you know.
cares? That's it's still great. Yeah, the primary way that this differs is that, in these other racing games, you can have these like kind of precise angles where it's like, okay, I need to take this turn at this speed and I need to whatever, whereas here you're really just in one of 4 lanes, and so um you're doing a lot more just like I need to avoid the obstacles and land the tricks well. And in many ways, it's more similar to a platformer and how it plays, not just
Mm.
because of the side scrolling, but because it's like, there's a jump. Because it's a racer, what I'm trying to do is maintain my speed. But in order to maintain my speed, what I want to do is go off the jump at the right angle and land at the right angle. So I'm more just like manipulating my position with regard to obstacles that pop up, which is very different from a racer.
Which I don't know if I'm sure this is in other racers, but like F-Zero at least,
Hmm.
maybe it's in Extreme G or something too. I don't know. I haven't played as much of that. But like an F-Zero has a similar thing where when you are airborne, you will take a little damage unless you actually angle the D-pad to like land parallel to
Mm,
the ground. Um,
interesting.
so that is a thing I've seen in other racers similar to that. But I mean, I would actually tell me if I'm crazy or not.
Hmm.
But I would actually just say of these four games, Excitebike might be the most technically involved and
Hmm.
complex. Like the other games, it's really just all about corners
Hmm.
and avoiding cars in the road. But like if you know how to get around the cars and then there's corners coming up, that's the game, right?
Hmm.
Here, you have to avoid mud slicks. You have your turbo boost, which has a consequence now. There's an overheating. So then there's cooling pads you want to find, and that will reset it if you go over them. And then there's the whole angling in the air, as well as avoiding riders on the road. It feels, plus
Hmm.
the four different lanes you're going between, it feels like there is just more stuff to contend with than just I'm driving and I got to turn sometimes.
Yeah, it's a very different experience. I would 100% agree that it's more technical in that sense because the difficulty in these other racing games largely comes from I the thing I have to do is not very complicated, but it is relatively precise, and I need to maintain that precision at extreme speeds. And that's kind of where it comes in is pushing just how fast can you go and still have that precision. And here it's a lot more like, listen, you're not really going at extreme speeds, but you are managing a whole shitload of different mechanics and it's not like I can push my speed as high as I want it, but I'll crash. It's more like your speed is pushed almost exclusively by how well you manage these, right? Like if you yes, you crash out if you hit the landing on these jumps wrong, but also but that's only if you hit them, like, very wrong. If you hit them not, like, sort of wrong, like, not quite right, you slow down a lot, and if you hit them, like, perfectly, you don't slow down very much at all, at least that's how it seems to me. So it feels like speed is not something that you just push until you fly off the track. It's like speed is your, like, that's your reward for actually managing the jumps correctly. I don't know if
Hmm.
that's sort of a sense you got with this.
Yeah, I think I
Mhm.
understand what you're saying and agree with it.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. It's a different
Mhm.
take on how this works. But nonetheless, you are racing. You are on a bike and it
Mhm.
is exciting. And uh, yeah, I don't know. It's cool. I like this game. I feel like maybe this is of these four games today. This is the only one I had actually played before today's
Mm.
show,
Okay.
which I think is probably common for if you're a Nintendo fan listening, because even though this game isn't like the most popular game these days, it has been on like all the Nintendo streaming stuff. If you ever played the original Animal Crossing, you could get NES games and you could find this and play it in there. So, or like WarioWare had little tributes to this. So I feel like a lot of Nintendo fans have experienced this in some form or another.
Mhm.
So this was the one where I did kind of know what I was getting into. And I like, you can see more of like I said, the complexities in this game, but also kind of that Nintendo esque. We're just kind of having a bit of fun, and it's like a little bit silly, even
Yeah.
compared to like Outrun, which is silly in a
Yeah.
different way. It's like cartoony, sort of, in a way, seeing all these little guys go on the screen, but also even is like graphically, visually impressive to me, that in some ways, more so than the more sophisticated 3D graphics of those other games, you are seeing the full racetrack here.
Mhm.
It almost looks like more like what you would see if you were watching a motocross race on TV. Not that I've ever done that. Of like, here's the crowd, here's the track, here's the racers. Oh, you're almost behind this guy. Oh, get behind that guy. This is exciting. Versus just seeing, like in Rad Racer, the back of your car and there's
Right.
like a thing going by. I don't know. Yeah, there's a lot of things I admire about this game. I do. And also the tracks are very different. I think that's another big point in its favor, that
Mhm.
you would think, and you can kind of get a feel for this if you mess around with the course editor at all, there's only so many elements. There's like 20, 25 different types of jumps or bumps or gaps that you can fill in the track with. But they all five of them are pretty distinct, and you can definitely
Yeah.
learn them as you play them more and more.
Yeah, no, yeah, maybe describing it you would think that, but I would not think that because, um, yeah, like, because it does not take a lot of elements for you to just be like, yeah, it turns out that, like, if you have five of these things, it turns out that because of the fact that you have to land the jump properly and how far you go off the jump is dependent on your angle when you go off it, that if I take two of the same one and I put them a little closer together here and a little farther away here, the method by which you have to go across them is completely different. And so now imagine you're interspersing five of these. How many different patterns can you make? Like basically you can do whatever and it's ridiculously complicated. Like you don't need very many different inputs or obstacles to just be like, yeah, it turns out the sequence of this over time is just like you can do so much and it does get very intense very quickly. Um yeah, in terms of the graphics and the feeling of it, I think it really does succeed well. Like I do get the sense of, I'm complaining about Rad Racer not giving me a sense of place. I do have a sense of being at a racetrack here, and I do have a sense of these racetracks being different when I'm on the different ones. And a lot of that does come down to like, yes, um in a regular racing game, I've got these turns and these straightaways, but like most of the extreme variance is coming from the backgrounds, like the cool stuff I'm driving past here. Whereas with this, it's like so much of my attention is on, okay, there's three jumps here, and these are the steep ones, or these are the less steep ones, or, oh, I've got to go over these things that I wheelie over. Oh, I got to go around the dirt patches here so I don't slow down. That, like, different parts of the track feel different, right? And each track feels very distinct from each other track just because of the way that the layouts are different. The guys on
Mhm.
the bikes, they're cute little guys. I like them. They do feel like real motorcyclists when you spin out and you have to like walk back over to your bike and get on and get back on the track. It feels like you're doing it. As you said, there is a background. Like I do get the sense that I'm at a motocross type thing.
The getting back on your bike is one of my favorite innovations of this game compared to all the other ones, because in Outrun
Mhm.
or well, any of these games, when you crash, you just gotta wait for your car to reload. But in
Mhm.
Excitebike, you can tap the A button to go faster, and you can
Oh,
like
can
mash it.
you? I
Yeah,
didn't even know you could do that.
I guess you didn't discover
I did
that.
not know you could do that, no.
Yes, you so well, if you ever do that, in my opinion, it really makes the game more
Mm.
engaging because you're not passive anymore. You feel like you're like, "Oh," it gives you this feeling of like, "Come on, come on, come on, I got to get back on my bike." That so I'm never not paying attention. I'm not never not focused on the race. I think
Mm.
it's such a small thing, very simple to implement, but really gives it a different feel to me. Um,
Yeah, I can say, I mean, I was gonna say it still does help to some degree where, like, if you crash out and your car blows up in Outrun, you are just kind of waiting for your car to, like, flash in and reload on the road here. But here, like, there is that sense of, like, you spun out, but then your guy stands up and he drags the bike over to the road, and then he's like, it's like there's some real element of something happening here, Right, and, you're not just waiting to respawn in, you're like, "Okay, I'm watching my guy do a thing."
Mhm.
Which I think does feel good, even without the tap A. I'm currently browsing the manual to see if I'm just stupid and missed it, or if it
I'm
doesn't
pretty
tell
sure
me I
it's
can
in
do that.
there. I
I
think
would
it's in
think it
there.
would be in here, but
Unless I'm the crazy one and I'm just mashing the button for no reason.
I mean, it's also possible that it's just not in the manual, but because they've put this and you said it was available in like Animal Crossing, that you just knew that from other variants.
Mhm.
I
Right.
could have just missed it. I'm sure.
Yeah, now
Whatever.
you're making me crazy. Now I feel like I gotta look for it.
It's fine. Don't worry about it.
I also like how in this game, you said there's the mode where you're by yourself and then there's the mode with other racers. And it's not like it's called race mode and time trial
Mhm.
mode. It's just called selection A and selection B. The most boring ass
Yeah,
possible way
would
they
not
could
have been
describe it.
literally just could have put some different letters on screen. Would have changed everything.
Yeah. Okay, here it is. It's in the manual. If the
Okay.
rider falls on a hurdle, blah, blah, blah. If your rider falls, press the A button over and over quickly until you return to the race.
Okay. So I just missed it then.
Yeah. Yeah, it's in there. I at first I was playing this game and was like, man, I'm so good at this game, or this game's actually pretty easy. But once you get to, I think it's the third or maybe the fourth track, I wasn't able to beat them as part of like the Grand Prix. They do get a lot
Mm,
tougher. Like you have to really play them to learn where those hurdles are and how to navigate. And especially when there's other racers on the track, it's very particular with how if you run into them from behind, you crash, but if they run
mhm.
into you, they crash.
Yeah, I mean, I
uh,
will at least say, like, while it is very particular, I had a much easier time, like, if I crashed or if they crashed, on this, like, I I knew what I did wrong, right? Like, if I ran
mm,
into a racer and I was, like, a pixel behind it, I was able to tell, like, "Yeah, I see why it was me and not him." Whereas in Rad Racer, I often was just like, I really can't sometimes I'm just like, I didn't think that I was lined up with that car when he knocked me off the road. I don't really know why that happened.
yeah. Yeah. Well, it's certainly, yes, it's much more clear in this game
Mhm.
where things are spatially. There's also a little camera guy in the background. That's
Mhm.
fun.
Yeah, now for everything about it being clear where things are spatially, I found this game to be more difficult, or at least it felt more difficult. I might have done better at it than Rad Racer. I don't know, but because given how well you said you did it, Rad Racer, relative to me, but it felt harder for me because of that added technicality, and I did find myself feeling like I was having some of the same platforming issues where I would be making a jump and I'd be like, okay, if I'm a little shorter, I need to be angled up because I'm going to hit the up part of the ramp. If I go a little longer, I need to be angled down. And I often was just like, I really can't tell where I'm going to hit that thing. Like, I don't know how I'm supposed to be angled for this ramp because
Mm,
it's not clear. It's not consistent. How far you go is based on how fast you were going and what your angle is off of it. So you have to be kind of able to control that and judge it on the fly, the way you might in a platformer. Um, that's not to say, I mean, it's not to say that it was frustrating in a bad way. Like I was like, oh fuck this game, I just don't know what I'm doing and I hate it. But it did feel like when I was playing it, it did feel like, oh, uh, maybe eh, the other games are all sort of using a similar skill set. So the fact that I played that other game for a half hour is helping translate into playing
hmm.
this next game for a half hour. Whereas this game was kind of like, I feel like playing this game for a half hour didn't really get me enough into like learning the new things that I had to do in order to deal with it. I was probably farther from a plateau for the little amount of time I played it for this week because I had to share it with other games. That being said, I also don't know that it could have carried an entire week of podcast on its own. So, it is what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I think any of one of these games probably could have carried because we could do it.
Mm,
But yeah, I think for the most part they work better in conversation
mhm,
with each other. Yeah, I do think it's a little bit tricky. I Once you start getting a lot of those ramps of different sizes in a row, there's parts where I go real slow and I'm like, I clearly need to play this more to really understand how to move this D-pad properly to do this
mhm,
right.
yeah.
Um, so one thing that's interesting that none of these games have that you would think is a requirement of a racing game is any kind of multiplayer mode. All of these are just you, baby. Even like Rad Racer by 1987, there's two controller slots on that NES. There's no
Mm,
reason. I mean, there's reasons, but it's not like it was unheard of to have a multiplayer mode in a game or something. But I guess it was just not. It wasn't expected. Whereas nowadays,
yeah.
the idea of a racing game without multiplayer is like, what's the point?
Yeah, I sort of that makes sense, but like, most of the time that I spent with racing games, I spent with those N64 games, and I was an only child at that point, and I
Loser,
also was a loser with like no friends. So most of the
dork.
time that I spent playing racing games, I did spend just playing against NPCs. So to me, it feels very natural that, like, yeah, I mean, you could have a multiplayer mode, but it's really not necessary to get the experience. I can see though how, like, yeah, it just lends itself so well to that. You've got a
Yeah,
second
it's a
controller. Why
race.
don't you have two of them?
Yeah, I mean, Excitebike would probably be hard because I don't think they had the horsepower to give it
Yeah.
to a split screen. Maybe they did, or they could with concessions. Um, and maybe that's true of Rad Racer as well. Maybe the 3D graphics were like too much. I mean, Excitebike was an early game for NES, so they were just kind of
Yeah.
figuring stuff out.
I mean, Rad Racer did feel the fact that they didn't that it feels like it's supposed to be like Outrun, but they don't have those intense backgrounds feels like they were they were still at the point where it's like, listen, man, this kind of like 3D looking imagery, just because they figured that out for the arcade does not mean they figured that out for the NES, and we are pushing what we can do right now,
Yeah.
type of thing.
Excitebike does have some sequels. There's an Excitebike 64, then it became later Excite Truck.
That's not as good of a name.
What about this one? What do you think about Excite Bots?
Hmm.
It's kind of fun.
Maybe.
Anyway, we'll get to those maybe someday. Do we need to say something sort of in summary, or do you think if we get to our kind of ratings, we'll address that? And that's another question: is are we giving each of these their own rating, or should we just do like a ranking maybe, or what are you feeling on it?
Yeah, it's hard to say. In the past with like the Sim Cities, I just kind of gave them one, but these I do feel
I
pretty
mean,
differently
yes,
about all of these games. Like they're not
yes.
there's a large range on these and they're pretty different. Um it also does feel weird to me though to try to rank something like Excitebike when I feel like have I put in as much time as I would want to give it a score? Like at least these other racing games I can compare to each other. But Excitebike is really of its own thing to me so far.
Hmm.
Um, yeah, I don't know.
Hmm.
I mean, why don't I go through and give a little, like some final thoughts comparing them, and maybe I'll think about a score here. I'll say
Sure. It
something.
feels like we have to give them scores,
Yeah,
right? I mean, we've established that at this
yeah,
point.
yeah, yeah. We have established that, I guess. Um, so looking when I look through these games, for me, Rad Racer and Pole Position are going to be toward the bottom of these four. Um, in I did think that there is something to be said for Rad Racer being, or not, Rad Racer for Pole Position being like the first of these games to do this kind of thing, and I did think that it was a little bit more exciting in many ways than Rad Racer, but it does definitely lose out to the fact that Rad Racer has a score. Um, so, you know, That being said, despite the fact that they're pretty low, I do enjoy this kind of game. Like, this is the sort of thing that I like, probably because I had exposure to it as a kid, but I also just because of the fact that, like, you're going at high speed, there's a lot of shit going on, I'm constantly having my attention split, I'm engaged, right? It does work for me. Um, but these are gonna be lower down. Excitebike is higher for me. I think it's very interesting. It doesn't quite scratch the same itch of a racing game, but it's technically interesting and it's well made, and I said a lot of good things about it, so it's going to be higher up. And Outrun, I gotta say, I really loved Outrun. I really liked playing it. I could have played it a lot more. Um, if I wasn't splitting my time between, Thanksgiving week and uh whatever, blah blah blah, all of these other games. Um it I really did enjoy the feeling of being in a car and running around here. I like I like road rage simulator, right? I like being able to be like, "Oh my fucking god, there's this goddamn car. Jesus Christ, let me through. Out of the way. Beep beep." Maybe what it needs is a horn. That's what it fucking needs.
Mhm.
um, um, but yes, it feels good to play in that sense. Um, if I had to give a rating to Outrun, I feel like it would be quite high. Um,
And you do. I
sir,
think you have to give them all
yeah,
ratings right now.
I think I do, because like Outrun's certainly got to be up in the sevens for sure, no question, which is high for an arcade game. Um, Man, I really enjoyed playing it a lot. I think I'm going to give it. Oh God, I got to remember how I felt about all these games. I'm gonna
Go with your gut,
give.
man.
Got to go with my gut. Yeah,
Go with your
let's.
guts, man.
I'm gonna give it. I'm actually gonna give it. I'm gonna give it all the way up at the top. I'm gonna give it a 7.9 for Outrun. I
Wow.
think.
I don't know. I would have
Uh,
said wow to anything you said. Go ahead.
a 14.3. Um,
Huh. No, that one I don't have any response to.
Excitebike, I feel a little bit bad giving a score to because I feel like I should have given it more time. There's a
Just
lot
do
of cool
it.
things.
Who gives a
All right.
shit?
Yeah, you're right. Who fucking cares? I like Excitebike a lot. I'm gonna give it some extra credit for how interested I think I could have been learning the mechanics more. I'm gonna give it, let's say, a 7.1. Let's give Excitebike. I liked both of them quite a bit.
Great.
Um, the other two are gonna be lower for me for sure. Um, let's give. Let's just fucking tie them. They've got pros and cons. I'll give both of them why not, a 6.6.
Wow. That's for pole position and Rad Racer.
Yes, that's for pole position in Rad Racer.
And I just want to make sure that's not 6.66 repeating, right?
No.
Okay, because that's the scary number.
Well, only two sixes is the scary number.
Well, I know, because if it's repeating, then it's infinite 666s.
Hmm.
So that's scarier.
Well, think
Anyway.
about it this way.
Oh,
We've got two of these games, and three of them are of a kind. So 2 out of 3, we kind of got that. You see what I'm saying?
I don't. I'll give you my final thoughts and ratings now.
Mhm.
I'm just gonna go briefly in order from my favorite to least favorite. I am aligned with you on Outrun. I think that's the most fun of this bunch. I think it has aged the best. The graphics are really fun. They still work. The environments are varied and interesting. The music is great. The speed, the intensity of it is great. This was of these, this was probably the one that I was most like, man, I want to play more of this. I'm going back to this one. This was a lot of fun. And like I'm trying to temper myself because I feel like in my heart, I'm thinking like low eights, but then I have to weigh it with like, yeah, the experience and the emotions and all that were fun, But if I were to spend more time with it, well, you only play through so many tracks and you have to start at the beginning each time. And it's still sort of clunky compared to modern racing games. So, and like there's not that many modes or anything. It's fairly limited in what it has to offer. So I feel like, I don't know, going into the 8 range is maybe too high. I might land where you landed at 7.9. Mm, yeah, you know what? That seems safe. I'm gonna stick with
Okay.
you at 7.9. Even though I'm like, I don't know, I'm right there on the cusp. It's like a 7.99. It's like real close.
Yeah,
But I'm just not.
7.99, locked in.
Yeah, I just don't want to quite let it into that club. Second for me though, that for the rest, I think we're pretty different on. Rad Racer was the other one that I felt like, oh, I would like to play more of this. I feel like I'm getting farther and farther each time, and I'm excited to see new tracks and everything. And to me, there wasn't as big of, really the only reason Outrun gets the edge is because the graphics are so much better. But in terms of the pure gameplay, I feel like they did a great job recreating that feel on a home console. So I'd probably give it like, I think Rad Racer like a 7.7.
Mhm.
And then Excitebike for me is I do like it and I like a lot of the things it does. I think it's an interesting game, but I don't know. For whatever reason, when I'm finished with it, I'm just kind of like, yeah, I don't really have a strong pull to go back to that. I'm not very good at the bike balancing mechanics, and I don't really feel a strong desire to get good at them in any regard. And I think the fact that it's like there's no multiplayer, there is a Grand Prix sort of thing in that one, but I don't know. It's just not that interesting to me the way it is laid out and presented. So that one, I think I'd say like 6.9. You know what?
Sure.
Yeah, 6.9. No, 6.9 is pretty fair. And pole position, my least favorite of the bunch, although I do agree you can give it more credit because it was earlier and it established a lot of the things, and it's not bad to play. I didn't
Mhm.
not enjoy my time with it, but it's just like the one track, and it's pretty dull to race on. So I think I'm gonna give that one a 6.
Okay. All seems relatively reasonable. Yeah, I did feel with Excitebike, like, you have more experience with it, and you're like, I'm not that good, and I don't care to get better. Whereas I kind of felt like I didn't really hit my first plateau where it's like, okay, I sort of have totally wrapped my head around when to do this and when to do that, and I've got the basics down, and I need to do more. Like, had I played it for the amount of time I would play like a regular game, maybe I would have hit that plateau and said, okay, I don't care to like work through this, but I am still interested. Maybe I gave it more credit for that, but maybe I didn't give it enough credit for that. Maybe I would have been like, actually, no, I fucking love this. So
Mhm.
it's hard to say.
Yeah, that's the
That's why I
thing
felt
with
kind of bad, but
when you play a game for a shorter time, you're like, oh, I wish I had given it more time. But sometimes the
yeah,
more you play it, the worse it gets.
right. Yeah, you're
You
like,
know,
oh, never
like a
mind.
double
Actually, there wasn't
dragon.
any more. Yeah.
Yeah, where it's like, oh, this is awesome. Oh, I'm done. Okay.
yeah.
Difficult to say, but overall, we're both within the range of between 6 and 8
yeah.
on all 4 games. Like pretty good. They're all there. There is a basic fundamental gameplay that was established in mostly in pole position, and it could be traced back to some earlier games we didn't play too. But that's just kind of fundamentally pretty enjoyable. You
hmm
get that speed right. It just feels kind of fun to do. I do enjoy I think the racing games maybe have a higher floor than other genres. Like at a certain level, if the development team is competent, it's kind of like the things that you need to make it fun to play. If you just get the very basics down, at the very least, it's like a C. Even if it's
hmm
not the best racer, it's kind of like, well, I was a car on a track and I did like go
Yeah.
fast and get to the finish line.
Like,
It's
that's
very
fun.
fun to drive fast and reckless. Like, it is fun to go way too fast and be way too reckless. That's a great feeling. So, if your game is mechanically competent enough to capture that feeling, then at the very least, you've got this cool feeling from engaging with it, even if there's not much else to it.
Now I'm excited. There's so many car games that are made for that sort of thing. I mean, obviously Grand Theft Auto, or there's Twisted
Mhm.
Metal, there's The Simpsons Road Rage.
Mhm, mhm.
There's a lot of Need for Speed, Burnout, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
There's lots of good ones.
And it is always fun when I get to like think about, I mean, we haven't really done it yet, but it is fun when I get to think about like, hey, that's a game I actually did play and actually did like, and I'm gonna get like, a Pokemon is still a long way out, but I'm hyped for its existence on the schedule. I don't know that Extreme G would like deserve to be on the schedule in video game history, but there is a part of me that wants to put it on there if it's something that you aren't don't know that well or haven't really experienced, just because it's like, to me that's what a racing game like is when it's cool, right? When it's cool and badass, right? Like it's like that. um so I don't know, like the idea of that kind of thing is exciting to me. I get to feel a little bit of what you feel again.
Yeah, we'll definitely play Extreme G at some point.
Yeah.
I think I've played a little bit of the 64 and the GameCube version, but not much. But yeah, so that's out there. I mean, we could do some retro review corner. I don't want to go too long on this episode.
Yeah, I mean, whatever you're feeling. If you've got some good ones, give them to me. Otherwise,
I don't know. I don't know that they're that good. I did think it
all
was
right.
funny for there's a pole position review from EGM where one of the things they say is there are 8 starting positions available, as if that's like a feature.
Hmm.
Like, wow. Not just one
Holy
starting
shit.
position, 8.
God damn.
pretty pretty exciting. At least that was Electronic Game Monthly. I don't know, something. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, reviews for these games were generally positive at the time, as you might imagine. People were impressed by pretty much all of them. Depending on when they came out, they thought the graphics were good. They thought the sense of speed was good. Uh, they were excited about Excitebike. They thought Rad Racer was rad. Yeah, there wasn't anything really that interesting. I think we can kind of get to a little bit of, I guess you might call it the uh, comment corner. Fuck.
Didn't we have a name for this? No, we did. It's the MMO.
I know, but then the thing is, this week it's
Oh,
just
these are the
comments,
comments.
and I
Oh,
can't remember what Nick
uh,
No Name's suggestion was for the mail section.
shit. Well, we'll figure something out. Yeah, we can differentiate between when people actually send us mail and when we're just reading comments to kill time, which.
Yeah, because we need to kill time in this episode. We're coming
We
under
sure do.
time. Nick suggested proximity chat. That's why I forgot it, because it kind of sucks. Love you, Nick.
Sorry, Nick.
Okay. Just a few comments on last week's game, which was La Zelda 2 Adventure of Link.
I
Remember that
remember that
one?
game. Hmm.
Yeah, which you weren't a big fan of. But here's some comments. Avatar Protocol commented on the video and said, "You really undersold an important turning point in the game's difficulty when you get the life spell," which we did talk about and you did get.
Hmm.
But Avatar Protocol says, "Up until that point in the game, you can't heal, which is huge. Magic pots drop, but hearts don't drop. All you have to rely on are your levels and hoping you don't get hit, and long trips back to town, etc. When you get the life spell, getting hit still matters, but so much less. Just having the shield spell doesn't compare early on." Now, you had said that this didn't help you because you just felt it was not enough.
Yeah,
But
the issue with this was mostly that my magic never got high enough. Like the light, like it's all well and good to say you have a life spell, but the life spell literally was eating like 70% of my magic bar. So like not only could I not use it twice without going back to town anyway, I also couldn't really use shield even with enemy drops more than 3 times and still be able to use life ever. So like I can see why this would be the case, but it feels like the turning point is maybe a little bit after you first get life. You need just a little bit more in terms of leveling your magic before you can really do it. But I do agree. Like when I saw that life spell, I was like, oh, I can definitely use this to make the game easier. And maybe only a little bit easier, but like I can see it. I do feel that.
Yeah, Avatar Protocol, you saw his gameplay. You can understand why it maybe wouldn't help even him. And then I did also share this with the Zelda subreddit.
Mm.
You know how we love Reddit on this show.
Yeah, I know how you love to advertise us. You're gonna get us banned from some subreddit at some point for
No, I
some
always look at
dumbass
the
rules.
rules. I always look at the rules. If they don't allow promotion, I don't post it. I'm
That's
a
the
good
word.
little Redditor. I always upvote. You see? Anyway, I phrased the question to these Redditors. I said, is Zelda 2 underrated or has it aged well? And here's a comment from Rat Capone who says, in my experience, people get turned off not only by the difficulty, but also the XP system and the weird way it handles the overworld map. As a result, many people don't play long enough to get the hang of the side-scrolling combat, and therefore don't realize how satisfying it is once you get better at it. This is why the game is so divisive among fans. Those that only played it a little bit tend to not like it, and those that played longer tend to learn to appreciate it for what it is. And I thought that maybe perfectly sums up the two of us, because I, who liked it, played it a lot longer than you who didn't like it. And I wonder if there's any correlation there, because a few other comments, which I maybe won't read, had similar sentiment. Some people did just say, I just don't like it. One person said, I didn't like grinding. It just wasn't fun for me. But a few people also said, if you put the time into it and learn how to get good at the combat, then you like it.
Yeah, I mean, I'll say, I did play it a lot longer than I sent you footage for. It's just that there was a lot of footage that was like, well, I died without leveling up, and so there's just no progress was made. um, so like, I didn't even bother to save or anything. It's just all right, fuck it. But also, like, listen, I do feel that you do have to give the combat a chance. You can't just say like, well, this is different and hard, so I don't know what I'm doing, so I don't like it. But um, I I don't like the argument of like you need to play through the bad parts to get through the good parts. Like I am pretty much never willing to give a game the benefit of the doubt. I'm almost always just like, listen, if you don't give me good parts up front, why should I expect you're going to give me good parts later? Right? Like, show me that you are capable of giving me something interesting, or else fuck off. Now, I do think that you do get to see the combat early, and you do have to like you can't go into that and just be like, this is not normal Zelda combat. I don't like it. Like there is some interesting elements to like, oh, there's like I can jump over these things or I can crouch down to shield high or low and blah blah blah. But I did often feel that either I felt that like again the overworld combat far too chaotic and crazy and shit happening everywhere for far too little experience, so just don't engage with that mechanic there. Um and then in the boss dungeons, it was like, okay, sure. I don't know. I just felt like I wasn't. I don't know. I felt like I didn't get to engage with it in the way that I maybe could have because the difficulty learning curve was weird and odd and often didn't reward you in the ways that it maybe should have. I don't know. I can
Yeah.
see why it's kind of interesting, but
Yeah, I think that's the difference, is that the part you're saying is the bad part, other people think is they enjoy the learning process. They're like, this isn't bad. It's like, oh, I'm maybe, I don't know if even enjoy is the right word, but they're,
yeah. I mean,
it's like learning an instrument or learning karate or something.
sure, sure,
Like you
sure. Yeah,
suck at first.
like I actually don't have a problem with the combat. I think the combat is interesting and neat. I just think that it's like it's very hard to learn, and the payoff for learning it, especially at the beginning, is not very like, it's like, "Oh, I could go here and just, um, do these dungeons, which are not that complicated, and get experience, or I could go out here to an overworld encounter, and Jesus Christ, there's shit everywhere, and I came out, oh, 5 experience. Oh, okay. Well, Jesus, okay, why am I doing that?" Right? Like, it's like, okay, you get to learn an instrument, but at the end of it, you don't get to play a cool song. Like, all right, why did I do that?
For the love of the game, my boy.
I do think it's interesting, and I can see why people like it, and I do think that if your takeaway is that I don't like the combat because it's not what I'm used to in Zelda, then you should at least give it a chance.
One thing we're going to try, I've decided, when we do our live stream next week.
Damn.
It's really right now it's more like 2 weeks, but for listeners it's like next week. It's don't worry about it. The one thing that Nintendo does on the Switch, I don't even know, the virtual, they don't call it that anymore. Whatever they call it, they're classic retro apps on the Switch. Some games they will have enhanced special editions of, which is like, play this and it comes with cheats unlocked or something, or you start in the last level or something. And they have built in a version of Zelda 2 that starts you from the beginning just with full 888, all your stats maxed out. I think you still need to like get all the spells, you still need to learn all the moves and stuff, and maybe even get the hearts, but just you never need to grind for experience. And I'm curious if you play it that way, how that will feel to you.
Yeah, I mean, it'll definitely be different. It'll definitely be different. Listen, it's like if you watch a movie and like the last 45 minutes are awesome, but the first 45 minutes fucking suck. And so by the time you get to the good parts, you're just checked out. Is that a good movie because the ending was great and you just got to get through it? I don't know about that.
Yeah, but there's
you got to look at the whole thing.
You don't have to replay the first hour of the movie if you if you don't like it. Like, it's different, you know?
Yeah.
I think the third act of a movie is very important.
I mean, it is very important, but like, if the rest of it sucks, it's not. I mean, do you really believe that though? Do you really believe that it's okay to go to a movie and just watch the last half of it because you don't like the first half?
No,
is that really okay?
No, I'm just saying, like in a video game, you don't even get to see the last half because you can't make it. Like the worst case scenario in a movie is you like close your eyes. But also,
you know, a lot of people, this is not me, but a lot of people would say, I just didn't watch because the first 40 minutes sucked, so I stopped and turned it off.
Well, we don't like those people.
Yeah, I wouldn't do that, but
I would say, certainly, now we're in a new subject, but who cares? A movie, I much prefer a movie that has a bad first half and a good second half than vice versa. If I walk out being like, it had so much promise, but then it ended up sucking, I think that movie's bad. Whereas if I go, it's slow to start, but then it gets good, then I like that movie. So
I mean, fair enough. But also, I'm not the reason I'm not putting down a movie is because you're only sitting there for like 2 hours and then it's done. Right.
Maybe a better analogy wouldn't work for you, but because you don't watch TV.
Yeah, I was gonna say I would quit a TV show after a few episodes if it was still bad.
Yeah, or if like season 1 is bad, season 2 is good.
Yeah, no, I'm not doing that. Fuck that. But I also don't really watch TV.
Listeners, let us know when you stop watching movies and TV shows. If you have more thoughts on Zelda 2 or the racing games we discussed this week. How do you rank these games? What's your ordering? How do you feel about them compared to what we said? Email us, badwithgamespodcast@gmail.com, or leave a comment on YouTube if that's your kink. We're on Patreon, patreon.com/badwithgames. And once again, check us out on Twitch and everything else. Find the descriptions in the link for the episode, show note. I said those words in the wrong order, but they were all in there somewhere. Next week, we're doing it again, baby. It's another bundle coming at you. And next week is a pretty big one. I'm pretty excited. Because next week, we are going to be doing a deep dive into some of the biggest games from the Atari 2600. So not a genre connection next week or anything like that. Instead, it's just a series of big games from the Atari, a system which we have not covered up until now. And we'll stay tuned next week to find out which games they are, but you can imagine some of the big ones. Okay? Pretty exciting.
Yeah.
You
I'm
excited?
excited. I am excited.
Okay, great.
You know, I love the Atari.
Sure, we all do. I think that's it for this episode. Thank you so much, everybody.
Vroom gamers.
Oh.